Belinda presents this unabridged recording of Out of Sight, written by James Patterson and Brendan Du Bois, and read by Lauren Fortgang and Eduardo Ballerini.
From Brendan, for my wife, Mona. From Jim, for Sue. Of course, of course. Chapter 1. I know within 33 seconds of entering the front door that my home is empty and my husband and daughter are missing. As a U.S. Army captain, assigned to the Military Intelligence Command, I have years of training and battlefield experience in Iraq and Afghanistan in evaluating patterns, scraps of information, and bits of communication. This experience comes in handy when I enter our nice little suburban home in Kingstown, Virginia, about 8 miles from my current duty station at Fort Belvoir. Our light blue Honda CR-V is parked in the driveway. School has been out for hours. And when I take my first 2 steps into our house, there's no television on, no smell of dinner cooking, which my husband Tom said would be ready when I got home, since I am late once again. And most puzzling, no ambient noise or presence from our 10-year-old Denise, who is usually singing, chatting on her phone, or tap dancing in the front hallway. Hard to explain, but the moment after I open the door, I know the place is empty and my loved ones are in trouble. I gently put my black leather purse and soft leather briefcase on the floor. I don't bother calling out. Instead, I go to the near wall, where there's a framed photo of a Maine lighthouse. And I tug the photo free, revealing a small metal safe built into the wall, and a combination keypad next to a handle. I punch in 9999. In an emergency like this, trying to remember a complex code is a one-way ticket to disaster. Tug the handle free, and reach in and pull out a loaded stainless steel Ruger 357 hammerless revolver. It's always loaded. Always. When we first moved in here 3 years ago, Tom teased me about my paranoia. But he stopped teasing when one of my fellow intelligence officers died in a home invasion gone bad in California. Nothing was stolen during this supposed home invasion, and my colleague was nailed to the wall of his bedroom with 8-inch steel spikes. I kick off my black shoes, move down the short hallway. Kitchen is empty. Tom's cluttered office is also empty. Since leaving his reporting job last year, Tom has spent many hours in this office writing a book. About what, I don't know. And I remember he's supposed to leave to interview a source for said book in 2 days. I move on to the also empty dining room, which has an oval-shaped table, 6 dining room chairs, and a glass-enclosed hutch holding our best china. A single rose stands in a slim glass vase in the center of the table, a gift from Tom last night. Living room, with reclining chair, 2 couches, bookcase, flat-screen television with Denise's collection of DVDs shelved beneath. Also empty. I open the door to the basement, sidle down, and then quickly switch on the lights. Furnace, stored boxes, Denise's old bicycle, some odds and ends, broken toys and hand tools, Bowflex machine Tom claims he'll get to one of these days. Next to a dusty treadmill I also promise to get to one of these days. Clear. Now I'm on the stairs, leading to the 2nd floor, creeping up, keeping myself close to the wall so my quiet footfalls won't cause nails or wood to creak. I've been through basic, extended basic, 2 infantry tours in Iraq, and was one of the first women to make it through U.S. Army Ranger training. In the past few years, I've gone face-to-face with some of the most dangerous people in the world, interviewing Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Taliban men. Always men who look at me with such hate from their black and brown eyes that it has caused terrible dreams at night and paranoia during the day. I am always looking over my shoulder. But nothing, so far, has scared me as much as walking up these 14 typical steps in a typical American house in a typical Virginia suburb. Among the many skills an intelligence officer needs is an active and extensive imagination. And I'm imagining Tom, face down on our marital bed, the back of his head a bloody mush from being shot. Denise in the corner of her bedroom, holding a stuffed Mickey Mouse toy in her dead arms, her throat slit, blood staining her frozen t-shirt, purchased on a Disney vacation last year. Tom and Denise, their butchered bodies dumped in the bathtub, a mocking message smeared on the bathroom mirror, written in their blood. My family, my loves, my life, all dead because of where I've gone, whom I've fought, and the sins I've committed over the years in service to my country. I've never been a particularly religious woman, but as I reach the top of the stairs, my prayers to whatever God is up there have deteriorated from, "Please God, let my family be safe," to "Please God." And now as I step onto the second floor, just to whispers of, "Please, please, please." My mom instinct kicks in, and I go into Denise's room. Messy, but clear. Our bedroom across the way, much neater, but also clear. The bathroom. The door is closed. I take a deep breath, bat my eyelids to blink out the tears. I spin the doorknob and fling the door open. The floor mat is tumbled like it's been disturbed. Clothes from Denise, her practice soccer uniform, are in a pile on the floor. My girl's room may be messy, but she knows enough to pop her soiled clothes in the nearby hamper. Wrong. It's all wrong. With a hard, deep breath, I rip the shower curtain open. Clear. But still, oh, so wrong. And now I'm on the ground floor, revolver still in both hands, still looking, hunting, evaluating. And there's a smell I hadn't noted before. A scent of fear, of sweat, of terror. I pass by the dining room, and there's something else I missed earlier, partially hidden by the vase holding the single rose. I go into the room, pushing back the happy memories made at this very table, of family dinners, helping Denise with her math homework, Christmas mornings, and Thanksgiving afternoons, meals with my fellow officers and civvies from Fort Belvoir. All sorts of pleasant thoughts that are now gone. There's a sheet of paper on the table. Next to the paper is a cell phone I don't recognize. Mine is in my purse, and both Tom and Denise have iPhones. This cell phone is square, with a small screen and a keypad underneath. I step closer to the paper, look down. Standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of white paper, with the words centered, the black letters looking like they came off an inkjet printer. Typical and usual. Except the words underneath are neither typical nor usual. We have your husband and your daughter. No FBI, state police, CID, military police. You and you alone. Follow our instructions to the letter and complete your task in 48 hours, or they both die. I read and reread the message, clear and to the point, and I'm in the middle of reading it for the third time when the strange phone rings, jolting me so hard that I nearly drop my weapon. Chapter 2. I keep the revolver in my right hand and pick up the unfamiliar phone with my left, push the answer button, and say, "Cornwall." There's a male voice on the other end. No hint of static, or crackling, or anything else. This is a burner phone, but it's a high-end burner phone. "We have your husband and your daughter," he starts, in a low but straightforward voice with just a hint of an accent that I can't place. "They are perfectly fine for now. Within the next 48 hours, you are to proceed to Three Rivers, Texas, to a secure location under the control of your intelligence services, and free a man very important to us. 48 hours. Once this man is free, we will perform the exchange for the safe return of your husband and daughter." I close my eyes, forcing myself to memorize the man's voice, the inflections, the slight accent, and I do my best to tamp down the emotions roaring through me. from fear to terror to pure hate. All right, I say. He says, I know there are instructions for you, left on your dining room table. Those instructions are not a joke. If we get any indication that you have contacted any law enforcement agency, either civilian or military, then you will never hear back from us, and you will never see your husband or daughter again. Who is the prisoner? I ask. The man says, let's just say one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and leave it at that. Where is this man? I go on, eyes still closed, still working the problem. Where in Three Rivers? Do you agree to this task? The black hate in me that's been stirred up by this man wants me to scream, what choice do you think I have, asshole? But I keep it professional. Trying to keep my voice calmer than my mind, I say, I need assurances that my husband and daughter are safe. The man says, that sounds reasonable. Hold on. I put the Ruger on the table, push a finger into my other ear, try to see if I can hear anything going on, anything that will help me later. Nothing. Another male voice comes on the phone, and this voice nearly buckles my knees. It's clear, but filled with emotion. Amy, my husband says, his voice strained but tired. Denise and I are just fine. I dig my finger deeper into my ear, focusing hard on listening for any sounds in the background that might provide a clue to where Tom is calling from. But I don't hear anything useful. I ask, Tom, what's the day today? He sounds puzzled. It's Tuesday. A murmur, and the other man comes back on the line. What was that all about? I open my eyes, and the safe and happy dining room seems to mock me. I needed to know that my husband's voice wasn't a recording, I say. I have that assurance. I'll perform your task. What's the address? Linden Street, Three Rivers, Texas, number 46. What's the prisoner's name? The caller pauses, just for the briefest of seconds. Why? He goes on. His name can change from month to month. It makes no difference to you successfully doing your job. You'll know him when you see him. He'll be the one without a weapon. Why is he being held? What has he done? The man says, Captain, please, will that make any difference to you? If he made car bombs in Afghanistan, or shot up a school in Pakistan, or dropped an airliner over the Sudan, will you still not free him to retrieve your family? I keep my mouth shut. I'm ashamed that he knows exactly what I'm thinking. He clears his throat. There's a pre-programmed number in the phone. That will be your only means of contacting me, but I only expect 2 more phone calls from you via that number. One telling me that you've retrieved the prisoner, and one when you have arrived at the exchange site. Phone calls begging for more time, for more flexibility, for another chance to speak to your husband or daughter. Those will be ignored. Is that clear? Quite clear, I say. All right. Another quick pause, and then he chuckles again, with the slight accent I can't place. Isn't this the point where you warn me that you'll kill me if anything happens to your husband and daughter? No, I say. Really? I say sharply. Yeah, really. You want to know why? Of course, he says. Because I don't have the goddamn time to waste. And I hang up on him. Chapter 3. After disconnecting the call, I check the burner's screen and memorize the 10-digit phone number. I look away to the far wall, jam-packed with photos of me in full battle rattle in Afghanistan and Iraq. Tom in his reporter's gear, somewhere in Venezuela. Our wedding photo, from Bar Harbor. Photos of the two of us with an increasingly taller and older Denise, and I repeat the number under my breath 3 times. Look back at the burner phone. Exact match. I'll never forget that number. Not now. Not ever. I pick up the Ruger, drop the burner phone in my jacket pocket, and get to work. Upstairs first to our bedroom, where I fling open the closet door and retrieve a black zippered duffel bag with 2 carrying straps from a locked trunk. My go bag, filled with spare clothes, water, rations, cash, a Sig Sauer P30, and other items. Tom's go bag is in there as well, and when we first moved in 3 years back, I was surprised he didn't give me any pushback about having a go bag prepared. "Amy," he said while we were washing dishes together, "I've been grabbing an airplane, boat, or train to get a story for years. Don't worry about me, I know the drill." But one of us didn't know the drill, and I often hoped she would never learn it. Nestled behind Tom's duffel bag is a pink and white Minnie Mouse knapsack, which I've never told Denise about and which I've always maintained. My 10-year-old daughter's go bag. To quickly go with Mom and Dad in case of disaster, natural or man-made. Denise's mom, determined to protect her daughter, no matter what. And Denise's mom, a failure. For a moment, I grab one of Tom's shirts, bring it to my face. Tom doesn't smoke and doesn't wear cologne, but his scent is here, and I rub a sleeve against my face. So many memories rushing in, from first kisses to the birth of Denise, and our many moves across the country. Then I slam the closet door shut before I break down and lose my focus. I can't lose my focus. I just can't. I race downstairs and damn it all to hell. A phone rings and it's mine, stashed in my soft leather briefcase. And I'm tempted to ignore it while I prep to get the hell going. But suppose, just suppose, it's good news. Tom was a tough reporter, and is now a tough writer working on a nonfiction book. I know he wouldn't sit back and be a nice, cooperative prisoner. He would fight back. He would look for means and ways of escape. He would... I drop my iPhone on the floor, think, Tom, as I grab it and pick it up. Chapter 4. With my iPhone finally firmly in my hand, I see the name on the screen. Bruno Wenner. Damn. Of all times. Bruno is the major assigned to my unit, the executive officer to my boss, Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Denton. The phone keeps on ringing. I should let it go to voicemail, but Bruno's a good guy who's backed me up and helped me along in navigating the increasingly bureaucratic world of an 18th century organization adjusting to one very challenging and strange 21st century. I slide my finger across the screen, bring the phone up to my ear. Cornwall. "Oh, Amy, glad I caught you," Bruno says. "You at home?" "Yes, sir." "Tom and Denise okay?" I clench my jaw and say, "They're fine, sir." "Of course they are. I just sent you an email, and just to reconfirm, your meeting is on for 0800 tomorrow." The meeting? Right now, about 90% of my body and being, the other 10% focusing on breathing, heartbeating, so on, is wrapped up in one thing and one thing only. Bruno sounds concerned. "You know, the meeting with Warrant Officer Vasquez from the CID to interview you about, well, what happened in Afghanistan 2 months back. The incident with the prisoner." Afghanistan. Like a stone and dirt avalanche, the memory of the incident pours over me. The grueling hours interviewing a captured Taliban member who shouldn't have been in the government-controlled territory we were supporting. The grin, the joking from the prisoner, his utter assurance that nothing would happen to him, especially with me, a woman, in charge of his questioning. The heat, the sand, the dust that got into everything. The messages from on high demanding to know why the Taliban member was there, what I was going to do about it, what I was going to learn. "Come on, Captain Cornwall, we've got lives depending on your skills. Get to it." Yeah, right up to the point where I went to pick him up in his cell for another go-round and found him huddled in the corner, blood and foam around his nose, lips, and beard. Dead. On my watch. under my control. You sure, sir? 0800? That's right, Amy. His voice lowers. Just so you know, the Colonel is increasingly going apeshit over this matter. So far, it's been kept out of the news, but the more people know about it, the better chances it'll get leaked. He really wants you to cooperate with the CID officer as much as possible tomorrow, to nip everything in the bud. And relieve my superior officer of any troubles from his superior officers, I think. Okay, Major, message received, I say. I'm on it, sir. Good, Bruno replies, almost in relief. Amy, this could be a career ender. Or worse, if your meeting tomorrow doesn't go well. Yeah, I think. Worse means exchanging my usual uniform for a brown, heavily starched outfit at Leavenworth, joining other prisoners who are in there for rape, murder, drug trafficking, and at last count, 2 for treason. Thanks for the reminder, Major. May I go, sir? Very well, Captain. I disconnect the call, shove my iPhone back into my leather bag along with the Ruger and burner phone, grab that and my purse, and toss my duffel bag over my shoulder. In the movies, this would be where the frightened yet determined heroine would stand mournfully in the hallway outside of the door, recall and flashback to all those happy times in here with her strong and smart husband and her precious and also smart young daughter, ready to start those fearful steps from childhood to growing into a young woman. To hell with that. I don't have time. So I open the front door and get the hell out of this place that used to be a safe home. Chapter 5. And then this brave heroine, off on a quest to save her family, comes within inches of bowling over an elderly woman standing on the concrete steps. I do a half dance and jig, and then land with both feet on the lawn. Shirley Gates, our next-door neighbor, utters a mixed laugh and a cry of surprise as she steps away. Oh, Amy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. It's okay, Mrs. Gates, honest, I say, rearranging my duffel bag, which nearly fell off my left shoulder. What can I do for you? Well, it's my younger son, Timmy. Ever since his father passed on years back, she begins. And she starts a long and winding tale of how her son had agreed to help take care of the house after Shirley's husband, Roger, had passed on after serving more than 30 years in this man's army. And on and on and on. Mrs. Gates is the oldest resident in the development. She's watched over Denise when Tom and I were out on our respective jobs. And she looks adorable in black stretch slacks and a floral top that could camouflage a dirt mound into a flower bed. I look longingly at my black Jeep Wrangler and I interrupt her and say, Mrs. Gates, I'm terribly sorry, but my office called. I need to get back to the base straight away. How can I help you? Oh, I'm sorry, she says, reaching up to adjust her white-rimmed eyeglasses, secured by a thin gold chain around her fleshy neck. It's just that I'm curious if you and Tom were pleased with your carpet cleaning service, the one that stopped by a few hours ago. I stand there like the proverbial dopey wife who doesn't know what's going on with her family. With our weird work schedules and occasional separate trips, organizing our lives and that of our daughters sometimes feels akin to planning the invasion of Normandy. Lots of moving parts. Lots of time-sensitive schedules. I'm ashamed to say it, but twice poor Denise has been left abandoned at soccer practice because Tom and I each thought the other had it covered. But a carpet cleaning service? Well, I haven't talked to Tom yet, so I really don't know, I say. Oh, she says with disappointment. I was hoping you could give me a recommendation. Then it clicks just like that. You know, I didn't really notice. I'll have to ask Tom when I see him. Oh, she says, glancing at the CRV. He's not here? He's out with Denise. I see. Tell me, did you get the name of the company? She shakes her head. No, I'm sorry. It was a bright red van, and I saw letters on the side advertising some carpet cleaning place. Funny thing, I saw it drive in and then turn around and back in, right up to the garage door. I thought, driver makes a mistake, heads in with the front, then turns around so whatever they're doing can be blocked from view from most neighbors. Was there one guy or two? Two, she says, wearing those gray, what do you call them, jumpsuits. A pause. Amy, is everything all right? Good God, what a goddamn question. Things are fine, I say. Did they stay long? Now, funny, you should say that. No, they didn't stay that long at all. I just saw them come out with 2 of your Oriental carpets and put them in the back of the van. It feels like there's a giant hand in the center of my chest, squeezing and squeezing hard. Tom and I don't own any Oriental rugs. Well, I hope they do a good job, I say. I bet they wrap them up nice and secure. Mrs. Gates smiles and nods. That's what struck me when they left. They opened the garage door and came out with the rolled-up rugs between them, and they put them in the van, real careful-like, one by one. Like those 2 rugs were very precious. I managed to say, "You have no idea," before hustling by her and getting into my Jeep. Chapter 6. I stop at the intersection, waiting for the light to change. Our house is on a cul-de-sac, meaning there's only one way in and one way out. One way out. Before me is the busy traffic of Kingstown Boulevard, which eventually leads into the extremely busy traffic of I-95 if you make a left-hand turn. If you were kidnapping a dad and young child from this neighborhood, heading to I-95 would be your best bet. Get buried in traffic, lots of options north and south to make your escape. Escape where? Just across the street is a Sunoco service station and mini-mart. The light changes. I hit the accelerator, drive across the street and behind the service station. I take a deep breath, step out. Inside the service station, there's a coffee setup, a pastry cabinet, and the usual narrow aisles filled with overpriced junk food, from chips to cupcakes. And I shouldn't be a wise ass, because there have been a number of times when I've stopped here with Denise to pick up something to drink or munch on while going on an errand or a school trip. At the left is a counter with 2 register stations, with piles of cigarettes in shelves on the rear wall. And there are lines of 3 people each in front of the registers. Busy day. I'm wearing my Class B service uniform with a short zippered dark blue jacket, and that has the benefit of not displaying my name tag. Good enough. But the lines aren't moving. Any other time, any other day, I'd be patient. But God, this sure as hell isn't any other time or day. I push my way forward, saying, "Excuse me," in a low but brisk voice. And I pull out my military ID, making sure my thumb is covering my name. And I come up against a cashier named Sarah, plump with brown hair and a silver nose ring. I flash my ID at her. "Ma'am, I need to see the manager, right now." Her eyes widen. "That's Tommy. He's on break." "Then who's in charge?" She looks over to another woman, older with long pink fingernails and bright blonde hair. Her name is Tina, and she shrugs and says, "It's you, hon. You've been here longer than me." Sarah nods, takes her new responsibility well, puts up a sign saying, "Use next register, please," with a little arrow pointing to Tina's station, and leads me around to the side office as the 3 good Americans in line quietly join the other one. I don't waste time. "Sarah, I'm investigating a matter of national security. Can I look at your surveillance camera system, please?" "Sure," she says, pointing to a wall that has a bank of 6 small monitors, with a larger monitor nearby and a computer and keyboard. The wall is cluttered with tacked-up greeting cards, notices from the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry, and sloppy photocopies of memos from the Home Office. warning workers about the latest phone scams. There's a counter below the keyboard and 2 chairs, and I take one and Sarah takes the other. And I look at the 6 monitors, and oh my God. Yes. Monitor number 4 shows the entrance to the Sunoco station, Kingstown Boulevard, and the very beginning of our street, Jackson Street. Sarah, I know you have a lot of questions, but I'm sorry I can't answer them, I say. But I need for you to go back and review the footage for monitor number 4. She scoots the chair closer, starts working on the keyboard. How far back do you want to go? I check my watch. It's 6 p.m. Mrs. Gates said the supposed carpet guys were at our house a few hours ago. Call it 4 hours just to be safe. Starting at 2 p.m., I say. All right. She works with a wireless mouse, and on the large monitor, a menu appears. After a series of clicks, we're watching the video feed from monitor number 4, and the timestamp is for 2 p.m. Great, Sarah. That's just great, I say. Now, can you fast forward it for me, please? Sure, she says. And soon enough, the images of the cars and trucks are moving along. Flick, 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 like a silent film from the 1920s speeded up. And at the 2:46 p.m. mark, I see our CRV turn into Jackson Avenue. And I just nod and think, okay, Tom's home. And the flick, flick, flick goes on until a school bus stops, extends the stop sign from the driver's side, and when the bus moves away, there are 4 little shapes racing out of view, one with a pixie blonde haircut, wearing a soccer uniform. And I must have gasped or made some sort of noise because Sarah says, Oh, do you want me to stop there? No, I say firmly. Keep on going. And thank God, I don't have long to wait. A red van shows up at the traffic light and I say, There, right there. Sarah works the keyboard again. The view goes into normal time. In the movies, you get to see the keyboard operator freeze the film, zoom in so you can see the license plate of the suspect vehicle. And sometimes you can even see the driver's lips move and decipher what he's saying. This little Sunoco station is definitely not Hollywood. On the screen, the van makes a left-hand turn onto Jackson Street, and I catch some of the letters on the side. Abel Carpet. It looks like it has Virginia license plates, but the numbers and letters are too fuzzy. I check the time. Wait. Per the video feed, the van comes back 16 minutes later. There are 2 men in the front. Can't tell if they're Caucasian, Asian, African American, or any mixture thereof. I chew on my right thumbnail. My 2 loved ones are in the rear of this van, I'm positive. The van makes a left, and then disappears. I know the geography. The exit to I-95 is only about 5 minutes away. That's that. I push the chair back and say, Sarah, thank you so very much. She nods, looking quite serious. Glad I could help, and I promise I won't tell anyone. Thanks, I say. One more favor. I need to use a restroom. Sarah says, I'm not supposed to let customers use it, but this is important, right? Follow me. 6 minutes later, at the rear of the service station, I've changed into civilian clothes. Blue jeans, black turtleneck, short black leather jacket. I quickly walk to my Wrangler, lots of thoughts and plans bouncing around in my head. I suddenly remember being with Tom on a warm night in McLean, walking off a fine restaurant meal. And as we went past a corner Walgreens, a man leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette, smiled at us both and said something I didn't understand. Tom said, "Excuse me," and walked back to the man, said something. The man said something back and went after Tom. And in a quick movement, Tom made a boxing stance. And in one hard punch, the man was on the ground. Tom later said, "He called you a whore in Farsi. I told him he shouldn't have said that. You saw what happened." "I didn't know you knew boxing." "For a while, I did." "Why did you stop?" I said. "Every time I got hit in the face, I cried," he said. so I knew Tom would do his best to keep Denise and himself alive. But it was up to me to get them safely free. Near the Wrangler is a pump island for diesel, and 4 tractor-trailer trucks are lined up, refueling. I tug out the burner phone. This is my connection to the kidnappers. The ones who have upended my life, have stolen my husband and child, and who have put them in danger. I go to a nearby tractor-trailer truck belonging to Walmart. I shove the phone in a crack under the doors and go back to my Wrangler. Earlier, the kidnapper thought he had sent me on a mission. He has. Mine. Not his.
Chapter 7. In his years as a journalist, Tom Cornwell had been in some tight places. Under artillery bombardment in a Kurdish Peshmerga outpost in Syria, accidentally separated from a Filipino army patrol while they were hunting Abu Sayyaf terrorists in the jungles of Yolo Island, and in an armored-up Humvee convoy in Afghanistan when the lead vehicle did a flaming backflip after it ran over an IED. In all of these close calls, Tom had one sustaining mantra: his circus, his monkey. He was in danger because that was his choice, his life. And if things went to shit, well, he'd be the only one bloodied out. Sitting on the edge of a cot in a concrete cube somewhere, he sighs, rubs his head. Now he is in danger again. But now it is so terribly different. He lifts his head. His daughter, Denise, is curled up on an identical cot on the other side of the room. She's barefoot, wearing black tights and an oversized sweatshirt from Epcot Center. She's clutching a stuffed Tigger in her arms, and it's been 10 minutes since she last let out a sob. Progress, of a sort. She looks up and says, "What about Mr. Banjo?" Tom gets up and examines their quarters. A square room, made of light green cinder blocks. Concrete ceiling with a small air vent. Concrete floor with a drain in the center. One metal door leading out. No handle or doorknob on this side. 4 light bulbs dangling from black cords. A dial that can lower the lights but not turn them off. In the corner of the room, a metal sink and metal toilet. That's it. "Daddy, what about Mr. Banjo?" He walks back and forth, working out the kink in his legs and arms. The events of the past hours keep on running back and forth in his mind, like a defective DVD that skips and repeats the same scene. A regular day at home. Denise in the kitchen, running the blender, making a fruit smoothie, having just changed and dumped her soccer clothes in the bathroom with a promise that she'll pick them up real soon now. He in his office, supposedly doing research on his book, but going down a YouTube rabbit hole showing black and white science fiction movie clips from the 1950s. Looking out the window, seeing a red van make a turn in a driveway 2 homes down. Back to YouTube, seeing old footage of a V-2 rocket launching from White Sands, pretending to be a moon rocket. Hearing a vehicle come into the driveway, leave, and then return. Doorbell rings. He gets up, goes to the door. Whirring sound of the blender. Open the door to 2 smiling yet nervous men wearing gray jumpsuits, one of them holding a clipboard, and the one on the left, in an accented voice, says, "Sir, we're here for the carpet cleaning." Situational awareness. It all comes right to him at that moment. The men are nervous, jittery, their dark-skinned faces sweaty. He and Amy haven't ordered a carpet cleaning service. This is wrong. He smiles at the 2 men, starts closing the door, knowing the gun safe is right at his shoulder, and says, "Sorry, there must be some mistake." No more smiles. No more nervousness. The larger of the 2 men snaps out something in a foreign language, and they break in. And now it's like a bad dream that's only getting worse. And he shouts, "Denise, run!" Then on the floor, gasping, legs and arms trembling, as some sort of taser-like device is being pushed into his ribs. He's thrown on his stomach, hands and feet are being bound, and in a high-pitched voice that will haunt him to his deathbed, he hears Denise screaming. He fades in and out. He's rolled into something. It goes dark. He's lifted up, dropped. Movement, engine sounds, stops and starts, more lifting, engine sounds, lifting up and down, Then, unwrapped in this room by the same two men, plastic ties cut away, Denise sobbing next to him, long hours trying to calm her down. Knowing they are trapped, knowing he's in the greatest danger of his life, and also knowing he has put his 10-year-old girl in a depth of jeopardy he dares not even consider. Chapter 8. Now, in their concrete prison, trying not to obsess over his mistakes that got them here. Right now, trying not to panic in front of the little girl who's depending on him to make it all right. "Daddy! Mr. Banjo!" Her scream cuts through his thinking, his memories, and another chunk of guilt has just been added to the monument piling up in his gut. "Sorry, hon," he says. He goes over, sits down on the cot next to Denise. He strokes her back, looks around at their surroundings. Where are they? He's not sure. He was so out of sorts for such a long time that he has no idea if he's been there 3 or 6 or 9 hours since their kidnapping. He tried talking, reasoning, and even begging the two men who deposited them here, taking the unrolled carpets with them. He tries to remember the word the larger man said back at the house. Middle Eastern, of course, but he didn't understand it. And his wife, Amy, a captain in military intelligence. Lots of puzzle pieces out there. "I'm sorry, hon, who's Mr. Banjo?" Her voice is filled with accusation. "I already told you!" Tom grits his teeth, tries to keep it together. "I'm sorry, hon. Could you tell me again?" Tears come back to her eyes. "Mr. Banjo, in Mrs. Millett's class. He's our pet hamster. I was going to bring him home tomorrow and keep him a week like the other kids. This week it's my turn, and I won't be there tomorrow." She starts sobbing again, and Tom brings his hand up higher to Denise's head and soft blonde hair. He strokes her hair, and she sniffs and rubs a hand across her runny nose. She's 10, and normally wouldn't be hugging a stuffed Tigger like this, but nothing here is normal. Still, despite the anger and fear and anguish, there's pride in his little girl. She's not your typical 10-year-old, especially since she has parents who sometimes depart for weeks or months, spending quality time on Skype or FaceTime. He says, "I'm sure Mrs. Millett will understand. Mom will probably tell her when she can, and then we can fix the schedule so you can get Mr. Banjo later." Denise nods, and Tom wonders at what point his little girl will no longer be convinced that her dad can solve any problem in the world. "Daddy?" she finally asks. "Yes, love?" "I'm scared." "I know," he says. "Are you scared?" "I'm okay. I'm concerned. This will be figured out, I'm sure." He strokes her fine hair, a part of him still wondering how he, with brown hair and Amy with black hair, managed to come up with this little blonde princess. Not an angel, good Lord, no. Not with her temper and her insane curiosity and daring, like the time she saw a Bugs Bunny cartoon and climbed up on the garage roof, black umbrella in hand, convinced she could come down like an 8-year-old parachutist. In his daughter's profile, Tom sees the outline of Amy's face. First time they met. It was an afternoon college lecture series in Maine, where, full of himself and a year into his first journalism job at the Boston Globe, he pontificated on the state of the world and the military. And at a following reception, she came up to him in her army uniform, a sergeant. "Nice lecture," she said. "Too bad 50% of it was bullshit." Stunned but instantly attracted to her smile and bright eyes, he said, "Which 50%? "Take me out to dinner and I'll tell you," she said. And he did just that, and for years afterward. Denise stares up at him, still looking like a much younger version of her mother. Why did they take us, Daddy? Because they want something, and we're going to be traded, like when you trade those magic trading cards. What do they want? I don't know. Denise rolls over, and now he's stroking her forehead. Who are they, Dad? I mean, they're so scary. And it hurt. It really hurt when they zapped me. I don't know who they are either. I'm sorry. He takes his hand away from her smooth forehead, and she scrunches her face like she's trying not to cry. Dad? She asks. Yes, hon? Will Mom and her friends rescue us? Tom says, I'm sure. The Army. I bet those bad guys kidnapped us because of Mom and her job. Maybe, Tom says. In the meantime, let's see if we can't rescue ourselves. Huh? He rubs the side of her face. We're smart. We're tough. Maybe we can figure out a way of escaping. What do you think? She nods, barely smiling. That sounds good. I'll start thinking, okay? And when we get out, maybe you can call Mrs. Millett about Mr. Banjo? He now rubs her belly. Sure, that sounds great. Now she's smiling, and he turns away, because he's afraid he's going to choke up in front of his daughter, who is relying on Daddy to save her, and who believes, and makes a good case, that this kidnapping is due to Amy's work in the Army. But Tom knows better, and the guilt is threatening to consume him. For he has secrets. Secrets he's been keeping from Amy. And he's terrified they will end up killing him and Denise.
Chapter 9. In the kidnap note that I've left behind at the house, I was warned not to contact any military or law enforcement personnel. But they didn't say anything about public libraries. I'm at a computer terminal on the corner of the Kingstown Library, which on the outside looks like an outlet mall, no doubt because it was built in the Lansdowne Center shopping complex, and on the inside has lots of bright colors and white ceilings and open shelves. I grew up in a small town in Maine, and our library was one of those places donated by Andrew Carnegie, a dark Victorian-style building with lots of brick and turrets. Sometimes, when the librarian dozed, I'd play hide-and-go-seek with my gal pals. Back then, there were no computers, but this library has a nice little section for public use, and I'm hard at work, believe it or not. A few years ago, the President and the Secretary of Defense made a big deal of transferring millions of dollars from our DoD budget to help upgrade computer systems in libraries across the country. Yay, everyone said. But there might have been a few nays if folks realized that in all this upgrading, a backdoor was installed in the software for the use of nosy intelligence officers like myself who were stuck somewhere in flyover country or on the run. Call it defense in depth or increasing the stability of vital DoD intelligence services, or another few bricks in the wall-to-wall surveillance of everything we do in the States. But all I know is that it works, and I need it. I go to an obscure federal government website about protecting rare flowers and click on a tiny gray box in the lower right-hand corner, which brings up a login box. I gain access by using my name, Army service number, and password. There's a host of options available to me, but first on my list is getting a readout of all surveillance cameras in and around Kingstown, including those at service stations, like our friendly Sunoco from down the way. ATMs, drugstores, malls, banks, private homes, private businesses, and anywhere else with a view of the busy streets of Fairfax County. That program is called Tango Trapper. Once I caught the carpet cleaning van going down our street, I saved the blurry photo, then repeated the process when it exited. And then I caught it one more time just as it was heading onto exit 169A North on I-95. 3 catches. Enough. I go to another program, feed in the 3 blurry photos. Wait some more. Deep in some heavily guarded and secure server farm out there somewhere, things are hard at work. Do I know exactly what is going on? Nope. But I'm not worried, I take a moment and look around the pretty and safe library. A number of kids sitting at the tables or gliding past the crowded shelves. Seeing a blonde girl working at a round table stabs at me so hard that I have to turn around and look elsewhere. Once upon a time, places like these that contained books and knowledge were stored in heavily fortified monasteries in Europe to protect them from the barbarians. Now the barbarians are no longer at the gates. Thanks to the wonders of this century, the barbarians could reach across half the globe and give you a deadly tap on the shoulder with a digital finger. Viruses, malware, phishing. I go back to the screen, using the program called Borax. There's my target van, sharpened up, clean and looking fine. Able Carpet Cleaners, Alexandria, with a local phone number painted below. The van looks legit. Stolen? Probably. I'll look into that later. With the sharpened photo of the van in my digital grasp, I send it along to another complicated tracking program that uses algorithms, predictive software, traffic analysis programs, and other cool stuff to watch vehicle traffic on the nation's roads, from highways to dirt paths, as long as there is a surveillance camera in the area. This one is called Cyclops. I imagine some bored bureaucrat somewhere in Crystal City whose job it is all day long to assign code names to various programs. Do I know the intricacies of the Cyclops program? No. Just like the sweet kids wandering around, out in the safe confines of this library, don't know how their handheld devices work. Just a tool. That's all. I go back to the screen. The spinning little doohickey spinning away. Look away once more. Ah, damn it. Out in the general area of the library is Sue Judson, an assistant librarian who's taken a shine to Denise, helping her find books about whatever obsession my daughter is exploring that month. Astronomy, genealogy, the history of Victorian fashion. My smart, tough, and sweet little girl. Now Sue is looking this way, and I turn, hoping I'm not spotted. She's lovely, about my age, desperately trying to have a child with her handsome husband Luke, an E6 in the Army, and stationed in my building, and any other day I'd love to talk to her. But not now. Not today. I go back to the screen. The doohickey is still spinning, stops. A map of Fairfax County pops up. Every street, avenue, and highway lit up in pink. Little symbols of steering wheels are blinking at me. I click one. There's the van heading north on I-95. I click on the next one, 2 miles farther north on I-95. And with this magic hunting system, I track the van as it goes up the highway, then to an exit, and then to a state road, and then another state road. The van moves along in a specific direction, no doubt about it, and I try very, very hard not to think of Tom and Denise, wrapped up and terrified, bouncing in the back of that stolen van which has left Fairfax County and is going into Fauquier County. Then there's no more blinking steering wheels. Damn. The van containing my life and loves is gone. Chapter 10. I take a deep breath, trying not to panic, trying not to lose faith. I check the last viewing of the van, passing by a private home that has a camera overlooking its driveway gate. Then, it's gone. Somewhere in this area, the van has disappeared. But where? Hey, Lucianne, how goes it? Sue Judson is coming this way, having just greeted someone named Lucianne. I scrunch up my shoulders, desperately trying to avoid Sue's notice. I examine the map again. A rural area near the small town of Atoka. I don't know anything about it. I do a bit more research. Not much to know. There are single-family homes, a lot of farms, and a private airport. Morgan Airport. More digging and dumping through the miracle of the internet. It belongs to a medical device company with its main offices in Alexandria. It has a 5,000-foot paved runway. Nice. No manned control tower, no real facilities except for those who have a reason to land or take off there. And no internet-linked surveillance cameras at the two small buildings. Damn. Cyclops is now down for the count. What now? What other resources are out there for an Army intelligence officer on the run? If there was a security camera overhead right now, it would see me tapping away furiously at the keyboard. Like the cliché scenes from movies and TV shows about dedicated hackers who can solve a knotty plot problem in 5 minutes by slapping a keyboard around and getting someone's third-grade report card. The thing about clichés, of course, is that they're always based on something real. Tapping away, I find something called GillNet, which lists all sorts of external visual and audio devices away from highways or roads that can be accessed by a curious Uncle Sam and his minions. And after I plug in the GPS coordinates for Morgan Airport, I get a hit. I get a hit. And then I get a hand on my shoulder. Hey, me, what a surprise!
Chapter 11. Pelayo Aboud is standing outside the thick metal door when his trusted lieutenant, Casper Cureri, arrives holding an ice-cold 16-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola, a white straw sticking out at the top. Pelayo nods in gratitude and gestures to the door, and Casper, a bulky man in his early 30s with perfect white teeth, light brown skin, close-cropped curly black hair, and a carefully trimmed mustache, unlocks the door, stepping back. Casper is wearing a fine gray suit, a Savile Row knockoff, with a crisp white shirt, blue necktie, and red kerchief sticking out of the jacket pocket, which Pelayo thinks is a bit too much. But he's a gracious boss and will allow Casper that one fashion statement. The door swings open and Pelayo walks in. The young girl is hunched up against the wall on her bed, coloring something in a book, and her father is drying his hands at the corner sink. Pelayo is pleased that the girl is using the coloring book, which he earlier supplied, something to keep the little brat occupied, so her father can focus on the trouble they're in. The father turns, and Pelayo sees the man is struggling to keep his emotions under guard. But Pelayo is no fool. The man before him wants to kill him, and would try in this very instant, save that the little girl is here and Casper is standing in the doorway. Pelayo nods to the other bed. May I sit? Do I have a choice? Comes the reply. No, Pelayo says, sitting down on the edge. Still, I always try to keep as much courtesy in the air as I can. He takes a sip of the cold Coke, relishes the sharp, sugary bite. He holds the bottle up and says, My apologies. Would you and Denise like one? No, the man says. You didn't ask her. I didn't have to. Pelayo shrugs. Your loss. This bottle comes from Coca-Cola FEMSA, which produces it in Mexico. There they use the traditional cane sugar, unlike the corn fructose sugar used in the States. The experts say there's no difference in taste, but the experts once again are wrong. He takes another taste and says, And I must apologize for something else. The kidnapping? The man asks. He's tall, with muscular shoulders and arms that show he likes to work out, but with a pudgy middle and sides that show he spends a lot of time sitting in front of a desk. He has on blue jeans, no shoes, black socks, and a wrinkled pink polo shirt. Pelayo thinks of himself as a global man with global tastes. But really, a man wearing pink? That's a harsh word, a harsh phrase, Pelayo says. Let's just call it an unfortunate turn of events. A matter of business, that's all. Hopefully in 2 days or so, all will be settled, and you'll be rejoined with your wife, Captain Amy Travis Cornwall, 297th Military Intelligence Battalion, Military Intelligence Corps, Fort Belvoir, Virginia, recently home after an 8-month deployment to Afghanistan. The man's face colors, but he stands still. The little girl is staring at Pelayo, and he offers her a slight smile. She returns to her coloring book. The hand holding a colored pencil is shaking. Pelayo says, In the meantime, is there anything else I can provide to you and your daughter? How about our freedom? He smiles. I wish, but my hands are tied at the moment. I've dispatched your wife on a very, very important mission. To have that mission succeed, unfortunately, I need to have you and your daughter in our possession. Fuck you, the man says. His daughter doesn't say a word. Pelayo stands up. I won't take that as an insult. You're a father, a husband, under serious stress. That insult, I will let it slide. But remember this in the hours ahead. Be very, very happy and prayerful that you're not in the presence of my cousin Miguel. If you were, well, let's just say at this point you'd be begging for the sweet relief of being killed. He takes another satisfying sip of the Coca-Cola. Really, how could anyone not tell the difference? And as he turns, the man calls out, his voice pleading, Wait, please, just a moment, please. Pelayo sees the man is no longer angry, no longer ready to curse him again. Instead, well, the man's shoulders are slumped. He is showing he is defeated. But Pelayo sees that as just a temporary success. Many times a defeated and humiliated man will come back with a surprising vengeance and fury at the most inopportune time. Go ahead, the man says, nearly looking down. We've eaten just once. It was quite the nice meal. I thank you. But could we have some snacks and other drinks just in case we get hungry? And my daughter, she loves chewing gum. Could we get that for her as well? He smiles. This is going better than he expected. You will have it all within the hour. Pelayo now is beyond the door, and Casper is ready to close it, when the man says one last thing. Why? Why did you do this to us? Pelayo shrugs again. You know very well why, and soon so will your wife. He steps back, and the plain gray metal door closes shut on the American father and his daughter.
Chapter 12. I restrain myself from jumping up and slapping Sue Judson on her pretty face, but I manage to minimize the screen for Gilnet so she doesn't know what I'm up to. But even then, she knows I'm up to something, which is just as bad. Her expression is a mix of curiosity and concern, and she says, Is everything okay at home, Amy? Instantly, I'm on guard and I say, Of course everything's okay. Why do you ask? And I'm thinking, all right, what does she know? Has her husband Luke said something about me and work and that appointment tomorrow with the CID officer? Another problem the size of the moon I'm trying to ignore. And then I try to dial it back and add, Are you all right? Me? Oh, yes, fine. It's just that, well, I've seen you here plenty of times with Denise, and I've never seen you at one of these terminals. Is your computer at home broken? Well, it's been giving me some hiccups, and I was running some errands, and she puts her hand on my right shoulder and says, I hate to interrupt you, but your daughter was asking me about getting a book for her from the interlibrary system, and darn it, I can't remember the title. Do you know it? No, I don't, I say, conscious that with every passing second, every passing minute, Tom and Denise are farther away from me. If they are still in the back of the van, each 60 seconds of blather with Sue is taking them a mile farther. She gives my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Well, I'm sure Denise is home right now. If you want to give her a text, I'll wait here. I'm not really sure. And I was about to say, where she is. But I can't say those words out loud. No, I refuse to say those words out loud. Oh, Sue says, smiling widely. It'll only take a second. I can wait. Then I can take care of her. Sue, I say, also conscious that with every passing minute my presence on this parallel classified computer system is being recorded. I really don't have the time. Amy, just a quick text, that's all. Sue, Amy, just a quick text and we can take care of it right here, she says, and she quiets her voice. I suppose so the other computer users around us don't hear. I'm sure Denise will be happy to see how thoughtful you are. Thoughtful. Sure. How thoughtful. I should have left the army after having her and gone into private industry, and she and Tom would be safe at home with better clothes, better gadgets, fatter savings accounts, and, above all, safe. Safe from her mom's sins. Sue? Yes? I crook my finger at her, so she leans down, still smiling. I lift myself up so I can whisper in her ear without anyone else overhearing. Sue, I say, choosing my words carefully, using my best parade ground command voice. Leave me the hell alone, or I'll hurt you.
This is the end of CD 1. The book continues on CD 2. CD 2.
Chapter 13. Within 2 seconds, I'm back at the screen, face warm, back tingly, knowing I've just tossed a hand grenade into the comfortable civilian life of one Sue Judson, and right now, not particularly giving a crap. I double-click on the icon for Gillnet and go to the hit, indicating some sort of audio or visual surveillance system at or near Morgan Airport, and a lit acronym comes up. USFWS. In this man and woman's army, I've come across and memorized scores of acronyms. But this one is a puzzle until I click on it and come up with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Well, not really part of what one would call the nation's intelligence agencies, but I navigate Gillnet and find a video system piggybacked on a cell phone tower, used to film certain patterns of bird migration. How fascinating. But it also overlooks part of Morgan Airport. With apologies to naturalists everywhere, I managed to seize control of the surveillance system and rewind back to the time when I last saw the van. I wait. And wait. The video feed comes back to life, and I get a shot of the airport, its strip, and the 2 outbuildings. Nothing else. I fast forward, but not too fast because I don't want to miss anything. Some minutes flicker before me. I hear harsh whispers. I look up and Sue Judson is having a serious talk with 2 other librarian staffers at a center workstation. I make the informed guess that I'm the subject of the irritated chatter and go back to the screen. The camera captures something flying by. A bird? No. I hunch forward, peering at the screen. Oh yeah, it's a bird all right, but a man-made bird. A jet aircraft, lining up for landing. It gets closer and closer. And then it makes the landing and slows itself, and I recognize it as a twin-engine Learjet 60, one of the most popular business-sized jets in the world. I rub my fingers together. All right. Not a big deal. This airport belongs to a medical device company, and maybe they're here to drop off or pick up someone. The jet taxis to the end of the runway, slowly circles around, the view now being blocked by the 2 buildings. I can make out the nose of the fuselage and nothing else. Strike that. I can make out that no one's walking in or walking out. The jet seems to be waiting for somebody. Oh, God, yes, I whisper. At the very limits of the camera, one can make out a dirt access road leading to the small airport. Bouncing along this dirt road is a red van. I get 3 seconds of view, but it's enough. I reach to the screen, give the van a quick touch, as it, too, disappears from view. All I can see now is the fuselage of the Learjet. It stays still. I know why the earlier system, Cyclops, didn't pick up on the van. It was too far away, fuzzy, indistinct. But now I've seen it, and I know who is in it. I touch the screen again. The Learjet starts to taxi out, and there. I freeze the view, and I catch the registration numbers painted on the near-engine nacelle. The The letters and numbers aren't sharp, but they're sharp enough. I quickly write them down. NS28312. I let the video play again and the jet gains speed, goes down the runway and lifts off. And within seconds, it's gone from view. "Fly safe, you bastards," I whisper. "You've got my family in there." Then I clear everything, shut down, log off, and push my chair back. I need to get moving, but I also need to do something else. On my way out, I catch a red-faced Sue Judson's attention and put a reassuring hand over hers. "Sue, I'm so sorry I snapped at you back there. Work. I'm under a lot of pressure, and there are things going on at home. I'm sorry you had to take the brunt of it." She smiles wanly. "I understand. We all have problems like that here and there." Sue's face brightens up. "Someday I'm sure you'll look back on this and have a good laugh, am I right?" I head to the doors. "No, Sue. You're very wrong."
Chapter 14. Pelayo Aboud makes a slurping sound with the straw and the last of the Coca-Cola, and passes the empty bottle over to Casper Correri, who cocks his head a couple of millimeters, a gesture just large enough so Pelayo knows what's next. "Ah, yes," he says. "One more errand to undertake. Are they ready?" Casper nods and takes the lead, still holding the empty glass Coke bottle with the straw sticking out as they maneuver their way across the filthy basement, cluttered with construction materials, pallets of packaged food and drinks, and boxes of open tiles and polished wood. The air is hot and muggy, pierced with the sound of hammering, power tools buzzing, and shouts of construction workers. They head down a wide corridor, freshly installed sheetrock on either side, little metal screw heads still visible. There's a pallet with empty Coke bottles in open wooden crates, and Casper withdraws the straw, puts the bottle in with a little clink, then drops the used straw on the dirty floor. A few more meters, and there's an open door to the right, which they both enter. The two men who successfully kidnapped the two Americans are sitting on a large black folding table, both wearing gray jumpsuits. When Pelayo comes in, the two men stand up, looking intently at him and Casper. Pelayo nods, gives them a slight smile. No need to overdo it, for these two men have grown up in the blasted and destroyed areas of the Middle East that Pelayo doesn't even want to think about. "Gentlemen, Amir, Hakim, you've done exactly as you were hired to do," Pelayo says. "My thanks once more." The older, harder one, Amir, says in an accented voice, "We would like to depart now, after we are settled." "But of course. Casper?" Casper leaves and then quickly returns with two gym bags, each marked by the blue and yellow insignia of the El Tigre Football Club. Amir steps forward, and there's a small knife in his hand. Not bad. A good man with a good knife can close in on any armed man and slit his throat before a trigger is pulled. Amir is prepared and suspicious. A good man to hire. "Yo, open them up. Show me what's in them." Casper looks to Pelayo, and he nods. Both bags are unzipped, displayed, showing mounds of banded American $100 bills inside. Amir says something sharp, and Hakim comes over, takes the bags, examines a few sample bands, smiles, and laughs. Amir takes one of the bags, and Hakim takes the other. "We're finished here," Amir says. "Show us where to go." Pelayo extends an arm, Casper backs out, and the two men slowly walk out into the wide hallway. Casper takes the lead, and Pelayo walks beside the two men. He says, "Outside there will be a van with a change of clothing, and it will take you to your friends at the airport. From there, vaya con Dios." The two men say nothing as they approach a wide ramp leading outside to the even hotter, muggier air. The younger of the men says something, and as Amir replies, Pelayo steps back. The two men are now walking across a heavy green plastic tarp. Pelayo takes a 10mm Glock out of an open cardboard box to his right marked Goya, and shoots both men in the back of the head. A minute later, after walking away from the two dead men and back into the basement, Pelayo and Casper enter a wide construction-scale elevator. As it grumbles its way up, Casper, with both bags of cash slung over his shoulders, takes the Glock from Pelayo's right hand and gives him a moist cloth, which he uses to wipe the gun oil and powder residue off his hands. "Ungrateful, weren't they?" he says to Casper. "I wish them well on their journey with God at their side, and they didn't even say thank you." Casper says, "Too greedy, too eager to leave. Lessons learned, eh? Well, perhaps they suspected there was no one waiting for them at the airport." Pelayo emits a loud sigh. Suspicious lot, weren't they? The elevator door opens up to another hallway cluttered with construction equipment, and Pelayo walks to the corridor's end. Casper opens one door, closes it behind them as they enter a very short hallway, and then opens another. From there, it's like going from a slum to a rich man's estate in less than 2 meters. Pelayo feels the tingle of appreciation and gratitude as he enters the top-floor suite, with its curtained floor-to-ceiling windows, balconies overlooking the rest of the complex, and the nearby Gulf of Mexico, luxurious furniture and big-screen televisions, as well as cool, air-conditioned air, so unlike the hot and humid basement. 2 of his men are sitting at a low table, heads bowed, cleaning 2 American-made M4 automatic rifles. The table is covered with a work cloth. Good boys. He looks around, sees 2 of his other boys sitting on a leather couch reading magazines. They are magazines about guns and cars, which is fine. No porn lying around, no adult DVDs, no young women lounging about with thong bikinis, laughing and touching too much. Those are distractions he will not allow. It is through very hard and dangerous work, pure focus and discipline that Pelayo has gotten here, and he will never, ever forget those lessons, including never, ever sampling the merchandise, whether it's smuggled cocaine, opium, marijuana, Fresca soda, or frightened teenage girls from Eastern Europe filled with lying promises about a new life in the New World. He goes down a short, wood-paneled corridor, and then to the left. This room is his own little communications hub, stuffy, the windows taped with thick cardboard against the glass. There are banks of communications gear, keyboards, and computers. One man looks up, and Casper goes to him, leaning over, the 2 of them softly talking. Casper stands up, a troubled look on his face. Pelayo says, "Yes? The Cornwall woman has departed, but the phone we left for her, it's going in the wrong direction. It's now in New Jersey. She's going in the wrong direction." Pelayo smiles. "No, she's sending us a sweet message. A nasty one, but a sweet one. She's telling us that she will do the job, but that she is a force to be reckoned with." He steps forward, gives Casper a comforting pat on the shoulder, noting a few flecks of blood on the back of his hand. "But so are we," Pelayo says. Chapter 15. As far as waiting rooms go, this one in Fort Belvoir is all right. Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez of the Army's Criminal Investigation Command has been in some real rat holes in her years of dedication to the service that she loves. Beat-up mobile homes with rusting sides and leaking ceilings. Apartment buildings built near railroad tracks, meaning she would have to pause her interrogation each time a freight train rattled through. Army-issued tents, the sides flapping, wind whistling by, sand getting into everything, the constant drumming roar of diesel generators and passing vehicles threatening her concentration as she diligently asked questions and waited for answers. In all of those locations, she was doing her job, interrogating various Army enlisted men and women, NCOs and officers, chasing down crimes that are as old as humankind, rape, theft, homicide, as well as those only pertinent to her army, from mishandling of classified documents to espionage. Today's interrogation is one of those belonging to the Army. The death of a prisoner in a foreign land, in the custody of an occupying force, said force being the Army of the United States. A CID unit in Afghanistan is up to its ears reinvestigating that end of the case, and Rosaria is here on the other end, conducting the first domestic interview with the supervising officer who ended up with a dead Taliban fighter in her custody. The waiting area is small, with 2 chairs, a coffee table with today's Washington Post and USA Today, and framed photos of Army personnel deployed across the world, from Afghanistan to Sudan. A door leads out into a hallway, and another leads to the office of the commanding officer of her scheduled interviewee. Both doors are closed. Rosaria checks her watch. It is 0840. Her appointment with Captain Amy Cornwall was supposed to have taken place 40 minutes ago. Rosaria thinks a 5 or 10 minute delay is reasonable. 15 or more is insulting, and more than a half hour is a gut punch of insubordination. Still, she waits. Patience and persistence are 2 of the many things she has learned in the CID. Rosaria is a warrant officer in the Army, assigned to the 701st Military Group, CID, at Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia, but is wearing civilian clothing, black slacks with a crisp plain white blouse and black jacket. CID investigators always wear civilian clothing, save for ceremonial duties or if they are in a combat zone. There will be conflict aplenty during her visit here today at Fort Belvoir, but at least it's not an official combat zone. Still in her hip holster is her Army-issued Sig Sauer 9mm P228 pistol, and in her inside jacket pocket is her government ID and gold and blue CID badge. Her black leather courier bag is on the carpeted floor next to her chair. She waits. The door before her opens up, and an apologetic Army major pokes his head out, his name tag saying Wenner, wearing the camouflage Army combat uniform. Special Agent Vasquez, Lieutenant Colonel Denton will see you now. Outstanding, she says, grabbing her dispatch case and following the slim, young-looking major into the lieutenant colonel's office. The office is twice as large as the waiting area, with the same type of framed photos as wall decorations. There's a small black leather couch on the left that Major Bruno Wenner takes, and one wall is covered by filing cabinets. 3 unlocked drawers have bright red cardboard signs saying "Open" slid in just above the handles. There are 2 brown leather chairs in front of Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Denton's desk. He doesn't get up, just gives her a crisp nod. She takes one of the chairs and says, "Sir?" "A moment," he says, looking down through a pair of reading glasses at an open file folder, a telephone system before him, a computer terminal at his elbow. Denton has broad shoulders and a barrel chest, wiry gray hair, and a frowning, weathered face. He seems to be about 45. Rosaria waits. She knows the lieutenant colonel hates having her here, hates having her presence known on Fort Belvoir, quietly spreading the news that some sort of blemish has been placed on his unit. He finally looks up. "Captain Cornwall isn't here." "Yes, sir," she says. "Will she be in at all today?" Major Wenner speaks up from the other side of the room. She's called in sick." Rosaria doesn't turn her head to the major. She keeps looking at Lieutenant Colonel Denton. "Sir, I've come up here today from Quantico expecting to meet with Captain Cornwall about an incident that occurred while she was on deployment in Afghanistan. This interview is vital to my investigation, sir. Is it my understanding that she could not make this appointment because she is ill, sir?" Lieutenant Colonel Denton's eyes narrow. His eyebrows are the same gray color as his hair. Major Wenner speaks up. "She is ill," Rosaria says. "Is she in a hospital? At some medical facility? Major?" Some quiet seconds pass. Rosaria hears a jet overhead, probably heading to D.C. Major Wenner says, "I believe she's at home, Special Agent Vasquez, and not at a medical facility." Rosaria can tell the lieutenant colonel's executive officer is very good at his job, being the quiet intermediary, the one who calms the lieutenant colonel, who supplies information, excuses, and anything to make the office run smoothly and cleanly. Like the good mom trying to smooth things over among squabbling siblings, although Rosaria has never known a real mom or dad in her life. Although she's only just met the executive officer, she's sure he's popular among the personnel at this intelligence battalion. Colonel Denton, is that true? If Major Wenner says it, then it must be true. I see, sir. You should consider yourself lucky that you've just wasted a morning drive, he says sourly. 3 years ago, we were at Fort Gordon in Georgia. It's a nice posting, until some bureaucrats and a congressman moved us here to Virginia in some high-class shuffle. Rosaria says, I'll certainly keep that in mind, sir. He abruptly closes the manila folder. I suggest you come back tomorrow. Rosaria slowly picks up her leather bag. At 0800, sir? Lieutenant Colonel Denton stares at her. My XO will advise you later today. Very well, sir. She stands up, and Denton says, Call me old-fashioned and cranky, Special Agent Vasquez, but I don't like seeing on-duty Army personnel wearing civilian clothes on my post. Rosaria says, Then I won't do it, sir. What? She starts out of the office. I won't call you old-fashioned or cranky, sir. Chapter 16. Less than 20 minutes later, Rosaria Vasquez is parked in the driveway of Captain Cornwall's home in Kingstown, Virginia. She steps out of her government-issued white GMC sedan, notes a light blue Honda CR-V with Virginia license plates in the driveway. She checks paperwork in her folder. Registered to Captain Cornwall and her husband Tom, a former reporter for the AP, the New York Times, and other news outlets. They have a young girl named Denise, 10 years old. They've been together for 11 years, got married when they were in their early 20s. Lots of moving around in the States due to their respective careers, and Rosaria wonders how somebody could be so much in love with someone else to put up with so many disruptions. She finds she's envious of Tom and Amy Cornwall, despite the trouble Amy is in. Rosaria is sure that however this is resolved, Amy's husband will be right at her side, backing her up no matter what. To be so fortunate. She goes back to the paperwork. There's a Jeep Wrangler, also registered in Captain Cornwall's name, that's not in the driveway. She walks up to the garage, peers in. Empty. She digs out her Galaxy cell phone, dials the number for Captain Cornwall, home and mobile. Both go to voicemail. The home voice belonging to her husband, the cell belonging to the captain. Her voice is clear, clean, with a hint of a New England accent. She backs away from the garage, goes to the front door, rings the doorbell 3 times, and then hammers on the door with her fist. Hello? Anybody home? Hello? No answer. So much for Major Wenner's excuse that she called in sick from home this morning. She walks around the house. Very nice. In-ground pool out back, barbecue, deck and lawn chairs, smooth grass lawn, wood stockade fence at the far end of the yard, couple of soccer balls, a tangled mess of a croquet set, and a volleyball in its net dumped in a big plastic bin. The house looks just as fine from the backyard as the front. Something cold settles along her hands and feet. There's an ache here, looking at this fine home in a safe neighborhood, the quiet residences marking not only wealth, but security. Not the kind of security where you live with bars on the first-floor windows and doors, which she's experienced, but the security of knowing you can sleep without a rat crawling over your bed, that you can wake up with the lights working, and that the refrigerator will never be empty. An additional security that you don't have to learn and relearn yet again the name of the foster family that has taken you in that month, supposedly out of the goodness of their hearts, but almost always because of the government stipend they get for keeping you alive and breathing. Hello? A woman's voice calls out. Hello? Yes, right here, Rosaria answers. An older woman joins her in the backyard, smiling with guarded friendliness and welcome. She's wearing sensible white slacks, white sneakers, and a floral top that seems to billow around her as she approaches. White-rimmed eyeglasses dangle from a chain around her fleshy neck. The woman says, I'm sorry, I'm a neighbor of the Cornwalls. Can I help you? Rosaria smiles. I'm looking for Captain Cornwall. Are you a friend? Her voice is still friendly, but there's a hint of suspicion in those syllables, and an old feeling comes to Rosaria. Is this older woman asking the questions because Rosaria is a trespasser? Or because Rosaria is Hispanic? Once again, Rosaria has to struggle to keep a smile on her face while enduring the challenges of having the wrong skin color in the wrong neighborhood. No, ma'am, I'm in the army as well. Really? She asks, her voice rising up a notch. But you're not in uniform. Rosaria steps forward, quickly shows the neighbor her army identification, not bothering with the shield, which sometimes intimidates civilians, cops being cops everywhere to some. Not all of us have to work in uniform. Oh, okay then, the older woman says. My dear husband, he spent decades in the army. I've never seen a soldier like you. Not many have, if they're lucky, Rosaria says. Do you know where Captain Cornwall might be? Well, I think she's at her base. That's what she told me. Those few words have snapped Rosaria into full investigative mode. And when did she tell you that, ma'am? Yesterday evening. About what time? Oh, near 6 p.m., I think. And she told you she was going back to work? Yes, the woman says, now opening up freely. And Rosaria gets the feeling this woman is lonely and loves to be the focus of attention. But it was odd. Odd in what way? The woman utters a strained laugh. It was just odd. She came out carrying a big bag with 2 handles. A duffel bag? That's right, the woman says. I was asking her questions about the carpet cleaning firm that came by earlier yesterday, and she seemed to be in quite the hurry. Even apologized for it. And she said she was returning to work? The woman nodded. That's right. Rosaria walks around to the front of the house, seeing the parked CRV. The woman tags along, like she still wants to be in the spotlight, still wants to be here to answer Rosaria's questions. Rosaria doesn't disappoint her. Her husband, do you know where he is? Well, he should be home. I mean, that's his car, and for the past several months he's been working at home on a book. Sometimes he flies out on research trips. Amy drives her Jeep, so he should be home. Rosaria gives the house a good stare. The quiet and empty windows seem to be mocking her. The woman's voice lowers. Is something wrong? They have a daughter. Have you seen her today? No, but she should be at school. I mean, she should. Rosaria nods. Captain Amy Cornwall is now in some serious trouble. She's not sick. She's not back at Fort Belvoir, despite what she told her neighbor yesterday. Captain Cornwall is gone, with a stuffed duffel bag over her shoulder, leaving in a hurry. And husband and daughter, gone as well. Husband's CRV is still in the yard, but there's stores and such within easy walking distance. How would it work? Captain Cornwall wants to bug out. The Afghanistan investigation. It must mean something much bigger than just a dead Taliban prisoner in her custody. Captain Cornwall makes arrangements. Husband and daughter walk off to a nearby restaurant or service station, leaving the CRV behind, and mom and wife rolls by, picks them up, and off they go. Very serious indeed. Is everything all right? The neighbor asks. Is everything okay? Rosaria snaps to. Yes, everything's fine. Just routine. She digs into her jacket and takes out the leather wallet holding her badge, slips out a business card with her Quantico number and cell phone number, passes it over. The woman holds the card in both hands. That's my name and phone number, Rosaria explains. If you think of anything else about Captain Cornwall, or if she comes back or contacts you, will you call me right away? I guess so, she says, reluctantly. May I ask your name, ma'am? Getz. Shirley Getz. Rosaria extends her hand, and the woman takes it with a soft handshake. She says, Thanks for your cooperation. I greatly appreciate it. Mrs. Getz nods. Can you tell me what's going on? Rosaria smiles. You have a nice day now. Chapter 17. Rosaria gets back into her sedan, reaches out to her team leader in Quantico and thinks, well, that's it. Captain Cornwall is gone with her family, and if she doesn't report back within 30 days, then she's officially AWOL and will be placed in the NCIC system so that even a random traffic stop anywhere in the States will pick her up. By then, Captain Cornwall's location and what she may be doing will no longer be any of Rosaria's business, or that of the CID. It's really not broadcast that much, but the Army pretty much ignores deserters. It's a small percentage to begin with, and the Army has better things to do with its CID officers. Rosaria has about a half dozen open case files piled on her desk back at Quantico, and she's happy that she can put Captain Amy Cornwall's file in the inactive pile. She will let the CID crew in Afghanistan do their part. Rosaria is content for about a minute, and then she holds the phone tighter to her ear and says, "Sir, I'm sorry? Can you repeat that?" From Quantico, the rough voice of Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy comes through loud and clear. "You heard me, Vasquez. The Amy Cornwall matter has escalated. You're to find her as soon as possible. Use any resources and travel as you see fit." "Boss, I'm sorry, I don't understand. She's not even officially AWOL yet." Her boss sounds irritated. "No matter. Go after her right now. Go through her personnel file, see what might be driving her, talk to her co-workers, run her to the ground. This is now your priority." Rosaria doesn't like for one moment what she's hearing. Something odd is going on with some higher-ups, probably in D.C., and chances are, when you're dumped into something odd, you don't emerge later with handshakes all around and a promotion. Usually, you get transferred to Omaha, or end up testifying in front of a panel of hard-faced JAG judges. "All right, boss. I'll begin right away."
"Good. Anything else?"
"Sir, do you know why it's been escalated?" Her boss says,
"Vasquez, you're a good investigator, one of our best. Locate her and get back to me soonest."
"Sir, Senior Warrant Officer McCarthy interrupts.
"Figure it out."
McCarthy disconnects the phone call from his end. There was one more sentence Rosaria was sure her boss was going to add, but decided not to. Figure it out, or else.
Chapter 18. I'm parked across the street from the regional library near Newport, Tennessee, after having driven for most of the night, save for a several-hour nap at a truck stop on I-81 near someplace in Virginia called Max Meadows. Using the atlases and maps stored in my go bag, and without going online or leaving ghostly traces from any GPS unit, I know that it takes around 25 hours to go from Alexandria to my final destination of Three Rivers, Texas. This gives me plenty of time. But I'm not going to race down there at a high rate of balls-to-the-walls speed. I want to arrive in reasonably good shape, and with a hell of a lot more information than I have at the moment. Years back, there was a story about a woman astronaut who supposedly made a high-speed run from Houston to Orlando while carrying adult diapers with her, so she wouldn't lose time by taking bathroom breaks on her way to murder a romantic rival. But that's too extreme, even for me. I check my watch. It's 9:07 a.m. The squat one-story library with the rough stone exterior over there should have opened 7 minutes ago, but no one's shown up yet. And it's a Wednesday, so there's no holiday that should be observed. Extreme, I think. Maybe I should break a window, sneak in, find where their computers are located. Yeah, extreme. I take out a burner phone that I keep powered up in my go bag, look through my contact list on a sheet of paper contained in the leather case. Hesitate. The woman I want to call is currently stationed at Fort Lewis, near Tacoma, Washington. I'd probably end up waking her, but still. I touch the keypad. Wait and wait as it rings. A click. Huh? Freddie, it's me, Amy. Amy? Jesus Christ, you know what time it is? I sure do. Hey, how's your eyesight? What? You know, under 4 eyes, glasses, that sort of thing. She's no longer sleepy. I get it. Give me about 15 minutes. You're a dear. And you're a nut. No argument there. She disconnects. A light red Honda Civic comes into the library lot, moving slowly, very slowly. It parks near a sign that says staff only. An older woman steps out, carefully closes and locks the door. I look around. There are a couple of houses near some tree groves, but that's about it. This is a secondary road, not even near a highway. The woman moves to the entrance of the library. I put my hand on the door handle of my Wrangler. She pauses, opens her purse, roots around inside, pulls out a key, goes to the door. The key apparently doesn't work. Back into the purse. "Ma'am," I whisper, "you get that door open or I'm coming right over there with a tire iron to help you out." I'm not sure if there's a patron saint of librarians, but if there is, he or she has just helped the elderly librarian. The door opens up at the same time mine does. Chapter 19. 10 minutes later, I'm at a computer terminal, having just smiled at the nice librarian and walked by like I'm a local taxpayer checking things out. Once more, I enter the classified computer system, and after poking around in the Fairfax County Police Department, I quickly confirm what I suspect. The Able carpet van was stolen yesterday out of a parking lot. The theft report is a basic document with no witnesses, no information on who might have stolen it. A slight chance, but I had to check it out, in case there was some information as to where the two thieves and eventual kidnappers of my loved ones had come from. But there's no joy. I won't waste my time going back there. I call up a site linked to the FAA and quickly punch in the tail number for yesterday's Learjet videotape, NS28312, and wait for its identity to be revealed. This is my best lead, to find out who owns the jet and who's operating it. There aren't that many organizations that can own a $1.5 million aircraft or that can rent one for $4,000 or $5,000 an hour. And I was guessing that it was the owner or owner's representatives who were flying that jet. An aircraft rental to help along a double kidnapping would raise lots of awkward questions. And the FAA comes through for me, but not in the way I want. Number not assigned. I try again, a thick feeling in my stomach getting thicker from this bit of bad news combined with the fast food breakfast sandwich I ate an hour ago. I carefully look at my notes, carefully punch in the number, and just as carefully, the answer comes back. Number not assigned. Damn it. I log off, clear the cache, and walk away, staring straight ahead. The nice older woman at the curved library counter looks up at me and says, "Did you find what you were looking for, hon?" I attempt to smile in her direction. "What a beautiful library you have." I move my Jeep Wrangler out, find a small strip mall, and park underneath an oak tree to give me shade. What does number not assigned mean? It means the Learjet 60, as white as it appeared to me yesterday, is black. It belongs to one of the 17 official domestic or overseas intelligence agencies that supposedly exist here in the United States. Trust me, the number is much higher. Or to some off-the-books, well-financed group that does freelance work for intelligence groups. So in case something goes sour or appears on the front page of the Washington Post, there's the ever-plausible deniability for the White House. Or it might mean that some corporation or billionaire on the boundary between legal and illegal has the money and pull to keep a registration number on that Learjet in the shadows. However you want to slice or dice it, my family, my Tom and my Denise, were dragged into my world yesterday. Damn it once more. My burner phone rings, and I'm happy it doesn't make me jump. It means I'm still focused on the job at hand. "Amy," I answer. "It's Freddie," she says. Most people in the Army know her as Major Frederica West, but one drunken night, after we both successfully passed the grueling hell-on jungle that is Ranger training, she told me her real family name was Von Westphal. and her great-grandfather had been a prominent general in World War II, fighting on the wrong side. At some roadhouse in Georgia, both of us in muddy fatigues, hair crew cut short to keep it clean, she muttered, "He was a good general, but he stuck around too long. Then he joined the other generals to blow up the little crazy Nazi bastard. And he ended up getting garroted by piano wire for his troubles." Now she says, "Under 4 eyes, huh?" The most 4 eyes you've ever seen. Over the years, Freddie has researched and admired her great-grandfather's military skills, even if they were used in the service of evil. And one German phrase she taught me was unter 4 Augen, meaning to talk to someone under 4 eyes, meaning in strictest privacy. What's up? 2 questions. One easier than the other. Which one's easier? I say. You'll have to decide. A dry laugh. Okay, go. There's an airplane registration number that doesn't appear in the public records. It's been scrubbed. I need to know who owns the aircraft. You can't find it through your usual channels? Freddie, I'm calling you at home early in the morning using a burner phone. Does that tell you I'm doing anything usual? She yawns. Good point. What's the tail number? I read off the letters and numbers to her, and she reads them back to me. All right, Freddie says. Question 1, what's number 2? I need to know what installations we might have in a small town in Texas called Three Rivers. How small? Last I checked, less than 2,000 people. Freddie whistles. Pretty hard to hide a base or depot there. That's not what I'm looking for, I say. I'm looking for a safe house, a bunker, a dry cleaning business that might be a front for something. A black site? Yes. You know those are illegal, even in countries that used to welcome them, like Poland or Estonia. Sure, that's what we're officially told, but this is still very unofficial, I say. I need a deep and thorough search. Property ownership that doesn't make sense, utility bills paid by a law firm in Maryland, parking tickets for vehicles belonging to the Agriculture Department's regional office in Boise. Anything that gives a hint of a place that might be used to hide a high-value target. Freddie says slowly, That's a pretty big shopping list, Amy. Yeah, well, I remember a pretty big whining session a few years back from someone who was going to give it up and go find a Motel 6 to take a hot shower. Jesus, Amy. How many times do you want me to pay you back for that? I bite my lip. Damn it. Why are my eyes welling up? Last time. I promise. And my voice shudders. And Freddie, a major and executive officer for the 2nd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, picks up on it instantly. Amy, she says sharply. Yes. What's going on? I keep quiet. Freddie says, Amy, is this professional or personal? I talk through the tears. As personal as it gets.
Chapter 20. In the plain but comfortable office at Fort Belvoir with a sign on the door that says, Lieutenant Colonel Denton Commanding, 297th Military Intelligence Battalion. He sits at the wide and clean desk, slowly rubbing his hands against the polished surface, knowing that if a subordinate were to walk in right at this moment, he or she would give him an odd look. But he doesn't care. A clean desk to call your own is one of the perks of getting this high up the ladder, this high up the pecking order, that slippery pyramid of command and responsibility. Oh yes, responsibility indeed. Lots of burdens of command, both professional and personal, and while the professional burdens are widely known, evaluated, discussed, and probed, the personal are never examined. It is like a big crack in a home's foundation that is never talked about, for fear it will bring something rotten into the open. Like the dreams, the memories of sharp explosions, the taste of someone else's blood on your lips, and the trembling that sometimes happens so fast and so hard, you retreat to the nearest latrine so no one can see you. Best to ignore it, and hope no one else sees it. Transferring this unit from Fort Gordon 3 years back was a logistical and personnel nightmare. But one does what one has to do, especially when the dim higher-ups dragged them here from Georgia to make some Assistant Secretary of Defense or Congressman happy. So he did what had to be done, which is always a good way to manage one's life in the Army. The phone in the plain and powerful office rings. He picks up the receiver. Yes? What's going on? It looks like it's falling apart. He knows his caller is thousands of miles away, and he's amazed once again at how clear and crisp the voice is. It is falling apart, he replies. What are you doing about it? He says, I'm fixing it. You better. The caller hangs up. No matter. He moves his hands across the desk again. So smooth and powerful. Chapter 21. Captain Rosaria Vasquez is sitting in her government-issued GMC sedan, balancing a cup of Cumberland Farms coffee in one hand while flipping through the service file of Captain Amy Cornwall, reading and reflecting, looking for those little bits of information that will stand out, make her take notice, that little thread she hopes she can pull that will lead to a string out there somewhere, and not just a bit of nothing. But so far, nothing is what she's finding. Born in Maine, joined the Army after high school, finished college in Maine, had a variety of schools and assignments, assigned to an infantry unit, one tour in Iraq, went through the 62-day Ranger School, only one of a few women who managed to pass, and then ended up in military intelligence. 2 tours in Afghanistan, including the last one that resulted in the death of a Taliban prisoner, but otherwise reasonably routine. Rosaria goes through the file, again and again. Different schools. One thing about the Army is that if you want to learn, they are ready to offer to you. One of the reasons she loves her service so. And it all seems routine. Scratch that. Captain Cornwall is a fine officer, with a bright future ahead of her. So why did she bail out with her husband and kid? Over the Afghanistan investigation? Doesn't make sense. Nothing she saw of Cornwall in this folder stands out. All her time is accounted for. The different dates, the different schools and assignments, everything. Hold on. She flips through the pages again. Odd. Just before her last deployment to Afghanistan, she went on an exchange mission to Fort Campbell in Kentucky, one of the largest Army bases in CONUS, continental United States. What kind of mission? Hard to tell. Lots of abbreviations and acronyms. It looks like it was a unit assigned to work with an Air National Guard section that had deployed from Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. What was Captain Cornwall doing in Kentucky? And the biggest question, she was assigned there for 6 months, left after 4, ahead of schedule. But why? She smiles when she sees a familiar name attached to another form. Captain A. Mitchum. She closes the folder. That's what civvies never, ever understand about military service. You can have friends across the world at various stations and bases, like an archipelago of relationships and friendships. It is odd to be transferred somewhere without having an acquaintance there to welcome you. In a usual time and place, to talk to Captain Aaron Mitchum would take phone calls, emails, appointments, and official paperwork. But this isn't a usual time. She checks her watch, takes out her Galaxy phone, starts flipping through various map and travel apps, sees it would take about 12 hours to drive to Fort Campbell in Kentucky. Too long. Then air travel it will be, using her government-issued Visa credit card, although the travel vouchers and paperwork will eventually be a pain in the ass before she got reimbursed. But to get from Ronald Reagan International Airport to Nashville, about 2 hours. Add 3 hours for additional travel to and from the airports. Yeah. She looks again at the smeared photocopy and the name Mitchum. 2 years ago, they dated briefly while they were both taking a course on logistics. And there was one thing that bonded them, even though he was as white as Wonder Bread and straight as a ruler. Both were orphans, would found a family in the Army, and would do anything to protect their family.
Chapter 22. I'm now driving on Interstate 75, heading southwest through Tennessee, about an hour south of Knoxville. The highway is 2 lanes west and 2 lanes east, with a wide grassy median in between and lots of open farmland and wooded hills in the distance. Kentucky is north of me, and I'm trying not to think about the last disastrous time I was in the bluegrass state. Instead, I'm driving fast and sweet, keeping my speed about 5 miles above the speed limit, waiting for my burner phone to ring from Washington State and my old friend Freddie. I try not to be impatient. I try not to think of bad things. Freddie having second thoughts. Freddie being in a car accident. Freddie having a sudden aneurysm and keeling over just as she gets the information I need. And keep on driving. I also try very, very hard not to think of anything bad that might be going on with my beloveds. My Tom, my Denise. A cold, hard kernel inside of me demands attention, demands me to acknowledge that in most kidnappings, the victim or victims are dead after the initial demand. But I'm trying hard to convince myself that it won't happen here, because my mysterious caller wants to make an exchange. And he knows that I will demand to see Tom and Denise in good shape before presenting him with whoever the hell he wants. That mystery man in remote Texas. Another bad thought pops into my mind, and I check the burner phone. Okay, it's still on. I had a bad feeling that I accidentally switched it off or the battery was dead, but no, it's fine, it's operating. It's keeping my presence in the telecommunications world unknown at the present time. I pass a Walmart truck. Think of where the other burner phone has ended up. No matter. And still, I know I'm violating lots of tradecraft by taking this major highway to my destination in Texas. Here I'm vulnerable. I can be tracked. Hell, maybe I'm being tracked at this very moment via drones, surveillance cameras, passing vans and trucks that secretly belong to the DoD and are part of the grand unknown domestic surveillance system. It's a trade-off. To keep from view and surveillance, I should be taking secondary roads and state roads all the way to Texas, avoid being out in the open on the interstate. But that would triple my travel time. And that's what I don't have. Time. My burner phone rings. I switch on the directional and slowly pull over to the side of the road, and then go into the grassy area running parallel to the pavement. No use being parked close to the side of the highway and having some distracted trucker pancake me and my Jeep into steel, blood, and rubber. There's a thick grove of trees to the right. Cornwall, I say. Amy? Ah, crap, hold on for a minute, will you? It's Freddie, and I'm eager to learn what she's discovered, if anything, and what I'll do about it. A voice from past training comes to me. Intelligence is intelligence. It's neither good nor bad. It's information to be used. That is all. Stop trying to weld feelings on something that is inherently neutral. Intelligence. I take a breath. All right, then. Amy? Comes Freddie's voice. Another minute? Sure. I need something to distract me from the roaring traffic going by me and the view of the nearby woods and wide fields. My iPhone is in my hand now. I flick through various prompts and screens and come to a favorite. Last summer on Virginia Beach, Tom in his black swimming trunks strongly striding his way back in from the water. Standing in front of me, his body an okay body. He can't get rid of those soft handles around those hips. But it's his damn smile and eyes that still warm me and tug at me. The sound's off, so I can't hear the sound of the waves or any other ambient noise, but that's just fine. In the corner of the screen is Denise in a bright orange swimsuit. She had asked me earlier, "Why such a bright suit, Mom?" And I never told her the truth. So I can always see you, no matter how far you go, digging at something with a yellow plastic shovel. Then she dumps out the wet sand in her pail, scoops up a couple of quarts of cold Atlantic water, and starts racing toward her father. She's giggling and the water is spilling out of the bucket, and something in my voice or attitude must have betrayed me because Tom looks and sees her approaching, and he stands still, He doesn't tell her to stop. He doesn't try to run away. He doesn't try to spoil her fun. Tom stands there and takes it, and grimaces as the cold water strikes his lower back, and Denise nearly collapses. She's laughing so hard. My Tom. My little girl. Chapter 23. The voice of my friend jolts me back to my grim reality. Amy? Still here, I say. First things first, she says. If there's a black site in Three Rivers, Texas, it doesn't belong to Uncle Sam or anyone connected to Uncle Sam, including any third-party contractors doing dirty work. I'm about to ask if she's sure and bite my lip. I don't want to insult Freddie. She's with the 2nd Battalion, 75th Rangers, some of the best Special Forces soldiers in the world, and highly connected to the intelligence community. That's interesting, I say. You want to tell me why you want to know this? No, I say. Okay. Now, the second request you gave me is where it goes a bit off the rails. Why's that? Freddie says. The airplane registration number you sent me, any chance it's wrong? Not a chance. You sure? Freddie? All right, she says briskly. I needed to check. Amy, on the surface, the aircraft is leased to a condominium developer in the Cayman Islands. Bright Sun Lives Limited. But that's just the surface. What's in the mud and muck, then? Your Learjet belongs to First Republic Global Bank, N.A., based in Guadalajara and with branches and sub-branches all over the world. Tom likes to tease me that my memory is like a computer chip, but it's really like an old-fashioned card catalog dumped on the floor with lots of bits and pieces of information lying around. I know that name. You should, Freddie says. Back in the 80s, there was a bank called BCCI, up to its neck in laundering money for terrorist and narco-terrorist gangs. This First Republic Global is its bastard offspring. Shit, I say. There's a pause in the conversation, and Freddie says, You're not doing anything with money launderers, are you? I look at the frozen picture on my iPhone of my Denise and my Tom, my husband, my man, my girl, my princess. No, I'm not, I say. Amy? I keep quiet. You okay? Not really, I say. You need anything else? She asks. You told me this was going to be the last favor you'll ever do me. When are you going to stop believing me? Freddie says. And, well, I've always wanted to tell you this. What happened at Fort Campbell wasn't your fault. It didn't happen at Fort Campbell, I say. It happened a half a world away. And the other things, Freddie goes on. I know what horrible shit you have to see day after day. Even most in the military don't know that. They think all you do is file paper. But I know better. Know how it haunts you. You should talk to someone, Amy. I sit up straighter in my Jeep Wrangler. Get ready to return to my quest. I'm talking to you, aren't I? I ask. Freddie sighs. This information, I hope it turns out to be useful. You have no idea. You'll let me know? Sure, I say. At our mutual retirement ceremonies, if we live that long. She laughs. Okay. You know what you're fighting for, right? I look at the freeze frame of my Tom and my Denise on Virginia Beach. I sure as hell do, I say. She hangs up, and so do I, and I'm about to return to traffic when I look in the rearview mirror and see the flashing blue lights of a Tennessee Highway Patrol cruiser pulling up behind me.
Chapter 24. Less than a year ago, an orphaned Hamid Aziz left his nearly destroyed village in Afghanistan to fight for his tribe, for his leader, for his God, and to send money home to his remaining family. And he left with dreams of being a powerful lion, a man who would be feared in the West. And what is he now? a waiter for a soft American and his little brat. Hamid is at the door leading into the cell that holds the two Americans, carrying a metal food tray with 2 dishes that are covered by round white plastic tops. Another man is with him, named Tonton, and Tonton is the muscle, wearing a short-sleeved white shirt and tight blue jeans with a pistol hanging off a shoulder holster about his wide arms. He wears sunglasses all the time and has a thin strip of a beard that crosses his bulky chin. From his pants pocket, Tonton pulls out a simple key and inserts it into the lock. Hamid senses something is off. There are muffled, loud voices coming from inside the room, but if Tonton is nervous, he doesn't show it. He unlocks the door, keeps a good hold on the handle. As he opens the door, the yelling gets louder. The father is yelling at his daughter, and the daughter is stamping her feet, screaming at the father, and Hamid thinks nothing like this would be allowed in his village. And Tonton yells, "Hey! Shut up!" The girl is still screaming and turns and says, "I want my mommy!" And she starts running to the door. Hamid juggles the tray. The chef, a bulky Mexican man with a thick scar on his face and one eye missing, always says, "If you drop it, I'll cut you," and tries to block the little girl from running, and Tonton moves by, bumping Hamid, so he's practically dancing in place, trying not to drop the 2 meals. The girl manages to push by, and Tonton grabs her hair, twists it, and she screams louder and higher. The father finally does what a father should do, protect his daughter, and he comes at them both. Tonton's pistol is in his hand, and he shouts at the father to step back, and the father yells and holds up his hands, and the little girl is grabbing onto the open door frame with both hands. Hamid gets into the room, puts the tray down, and he and Tonton give the girl's legs a good pull, and she lets go of the door frame. Hamid drops her on the other bed, crying now, no longer screaming. Tonton still has his pistol out. Hamid backs away, wishes he had a weapon as well, and is glad that no one from his village is here to see this humiliation. Tonton says, "Stay still until I close the door. No more moves, or I will tell Mr. Pelayo." Hamid steps out first, and Tonton follows, slamming the door shut. Tonton replaces the pistol in his holster and says something in his poor English to Hamid, and then laughs. He has no idea what the other man is laughing about, but Hamid decides to play it safe and laughs as well. Chapter 25. Tom Cornwall waits a few minutes, standing still, just in case the 2 men come back in. They don't. The older one, who had the gun and spoke to them, seems Hispanic. The other one, younger, thinner, and with a thick, long beard, isn't Hispanic. Middle Eastern, Asian, Tom's not sure. But they both worked fast to prevent Denise from escaping, and Tom begins to calm down some when it appears that his girl isn't hurt. He sits down, and she rolls over, eyes still moist from the screaming and crying, but with a sly smile on her face. "I did good, Dad, didn't I?" "The very best." "Do you think they noticed?" "No," Tom says. "The bigger guy was too busy keeping you from running out, and that other guy, he was too busy trying not to drop the tray." She sits up and wipes her eyes with the hem of her t-shirt and says, "Dad, I really, really hate chewing gum." "I know, but you did good." Tom gets up and says, "Stay on the bed, all right?" And Denise, being Denise, she ignores him and follows him over to the door. He presses his ear against the metal. Nothing. Just the slow hum of machinery being used somewhere, deep in this building. And where is this building, he thinks, as he draws his head back and goes to the other side of the door, repeats the process. Someplace tropical, he thinks. Maybe an island in the Caribbean, or off the coast of Mexico. The weather seems warm enough, and he's noted fine beach sand has trickled into their little cell. More humming of machinery. He's certain they're in this building's basement, based on what he's seen those few times when the door has been open. There are pallets of plastic-wrapped boxes and piles of lumber and pipes and wires and conduits up above in the open ceiling. Denise is next to him. Daddy? Did it work? Did I do good? Hold on. Tom leans against the door one more time, not listening this time, but thinking. Was this the time? Should he wait? Waiting a while longer had its advantages as the day went on, but still. Pelayo could come by at any time. Whenever negotiations were happening out there could have gone wrong. That armed guy with a thin strip of beard could come back in and with 2 quick shots end it all, and his and Denise's bodies could be rolled up in the blankets and sheets and taken away. No, this was the time. Stand back, he says, and this time Denise pays attention. She steps back, and Tom utters a quick and silent prayer and pushes on the door. Nothing moves. He digs in with his bare feet and pushes again. And maybe it's his imagination, but he feels something deep in the door vibrate or shake or move. And then the door pops open. Tom curses and grabs the door edge so it doesn't fly all the way open. Denise squeals in excitement, and he turns and whispers, "Shh." But her eyes are wide with joy. "I did it, didn't I, Daddy?" she whispers. "I did a good job." Tom glances down at the lock recess, which a few minutes ago Denise had plugged with a wad of chewing gum. In the excitement and in their eagerness to leave them alone, the 2 men had shoved the door closed. But the door didn't lock. Tom hugs his smart and tough little girl. "You did a very good job," he says. He opens the door and peers out. Nobody. Just a wide basement and piles of boxes and construction equipment. He reaches down and takes her soft hand. "Let's get out of here," Tom says. Chapter 26. Fort Campbell is one of the largest army bases in CONUS, and Rosaria Vasquez feels like her section at Quantico could be dropped into the surrounding woods and not be missed at all. Here at Fort Campbell are the many elite spears in America's arsenal, including the 101st Airborne, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, 5th Special Forces Group, and 52nd Ordnance Group. She's with Captain Aaron Mitchum, and she hasn't seen him, either clothed or unclothed, in more than 2 years. He looks pretty much the same. Light blonde hair, cut high and tight, some freckles on his cheeks and pug nose, and very dark blue eyes. He's been smiling at her ever since she was ushered into his office, and the smile stays there as he sits down. His desk is cluttered high on both sides, with envelopes, forms, and file folders, and the office is cluttered as well, with 2 sets of filing cabinets, one designed to hold classified information, the bright red cardboard sign saying "Open" attached to its drawers. Unlike Rosaria, he's wearing ACUs, the camouflage uniform of the day at Fort Campbell. "Rosaria, boy, you look great," he says. "How long has it been?" 2 years, she says, smiling as well at the fond memories of sneaking out after school for little get-togethers or trysts at motels in the area. "You doing well?" "Good," Rosaria says. "And you and Molly?" He gestures to a framed photo teetering on the edge of his desk, showing a plump redhead holding an infant in her arms. "She's doing fine, as well as our boy Paul." Aaron pulls the framed photo 2 inches toward him and says quietly, "This isn't a social visit, is it?" "Nope." "What do you need?" She goes to the personnel file. "I'm investigating a Captain Amy Cornwall, assigned to the 297th Military Intelligence Battalion. The captain spent 4 months here at Fort Campbell last summer." Aaron says, "Lots of folks come through here." As if it were a sign from above, there's a roaring sound as a number of Black Hawk helicopters fly overhead. The framed photo of Aaron's wife and son vibrates back to the edge of his desk. Rosaria says, "She was assigned here for 6 months. She makes a point of looking down at the open file folder. Something called Joint Claw. I can't find anything else about Joint Claw, but there's a memo here about her going back to her original duty station 2 months ahead of schedule, Fort Belvoir. And your name was CC'd on the memo in your position here. in the 502nd Military Police Battalion. Rosaria closes the folder. Aaron sighs, rubs at the top of his head. This off the record? I'm looking into her, Rosaria says. I don't care what black stuff she might have been involved with or what it entails. I want to know why she left 2 months early. There's no explanation in her personnel file. Because she was involved in a foul-up. What kind of foul-up? And why was she connected with an Air National Guard unit from Nellis? You know a lot. Not enough. He gets up and says, Let's go for a walk. Sure, she says.
This is the end of CD2. The book continues on CD3. CD3.
Chapter 27. 15 minutes later, they approach an isolated cement cube of a building, festooned with satellite dishes and antennas. Rosaria tries not to show it, but she feels overwhelmed at the soldiers and vehicles, armored and flying, that she sees during the brief walk. It's times like these when the tiny, discouraging voice inside of her says, Babe, this is the real army. You're nothing but a cop in a pretty uniform. Aaron says, Last month I finally got Molly to meet my foster parents at a family reunion in South Dakota. It went better than I thought. Good for you, she says. You ever meet up with any of yours? I had 6 sets of foster parents, she says. Is that a no, then? You're pretty smart today, Aaron. At a plain gray metal door, there's a keycard lock. Aaron slides an identification card through the side, and the door clicks open. Inside is a glass-enclosed booth, and both have to show their identification to a female military police staff sergeant dressed in ACUs and wearing a holstered sidearm. There's another loud buzz, and a door to the right is unlocked. Aaron hesitates. Remember 4 years back, that senator from Nevada was complaining about all the drones being controlled in her home state? How the state of Nevada and its citizens were complicit in extrajudicial killings overseas? Rosaria says, Was it in the news? All over the news. I try to avoid the news, she says. Aaron just shakes his head. Some days, Rosie, you need to look around and not just at your feet. Aaron? Yes, he replies, hand still on the door. You called me Rosie 2 years ago. Don't do it again. He pauses and says, The senator put pressure on the Secretary of Defense. The DOD put pressure on the Army. And as you know, crap rolls downhill. We couldn't expand our drone ops at Nellis. The honorable senator was making too much fuss. And like the Marines, the Army overcame and adapted. Come on in. He opens the door and she follows him in. And they're both standing on a narrow but wide terrace with hand railings, looking down at what seems to be a curved auditorium. There are rows of comfortable-looking chairs and overhead video screens, and Rosaria breathes in deeply as she takes it all in. This is a control center for drone attacks, and in the video feeds coming in, Rosaria knows that she's gaining overhead views of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so many other troubled places. Aaron whispers, So here we are. The rows of chairs are all filled with men and women, wearing headsets, holding joysticks. Some have bottled water at their elbows. A number of signs hang from the padded dark ceiling. The near one says, You can run, but you'll only die tired. Rosaria whispers back, What was Captain Cornwall doing here? One of those touchy-feely programs that some idiot at the Pentagon comes up with when he or she is bored, Aaron quietly explains. Bringing in intelligence officers in an exchange program so they can see what their work can lead to in the field. And Captain Cornwall was here? She was. What happened then? What was the foul-up? Aaron seems to grip the railing tighter. We still off the record, Rosaria? At the moment. He shuffles over like he doesn't want to be overheard by anyone in the pit below. I didn't see it, but I heard about it later. When the intelligence officers came in, they were paired with an experienced drone driver. Eventually, they would take over the flying if they had the feel for it, which Captain Cornwall did. Then one day she and her partner, they were tracking a target in southern Afghanistan. What kind of target? Aaron lowers his voice even more, so Rosaria has to lean in to make out the words. A white SUV on some desert road north of Khost, with 6 Taliban soldiers inside, supposedly on their way to attack a camp operated by Doctors Without Borders. So it was a high-value, very significant target. Captain Cornwall and her Air National Guard partner were tracking it with a Predator drone. The word came down from above. Smoke it. Then it came to Rosaria, looking down into this cool, comfortable building, with malls and Burger Kings and Walmarts nearby, that the men and women in here were killing targets thousands of miles away, all the while sitting in a comfortable chair with a cold drink at their side. Was it smoked then? Yes, Aaron says. But that's not what went wrong. In the last few minutes, her Nellis partner, he was fighting the flu, and he had to leave to hit the latrine, otherwise he would have shit his drawers. That meant Captain Cornwall was in charge, and she followed the orders. She pulled the trigger and destroyed the SUV. Rosaria says, a foul-up then, was it? Aaron sighs. Yeah, bad intelligence. It seems there was a family in that SUV going to a wedding. And there was some old feud between the father of that family and another tribe. And they used us to do a contract killing. That's what happened. Crap, Rosaria says. But that wasn't the worst part. Rosaria says, there was a worse part? Aaron turns, his skin looking pale in the artificial lights. Oh yeah. A couple of days later, it came out what really happened. Although there was never an official report, Captain Cornwall lost it. Lost it bad. How? Aaron says softly. She said, damn you all. I killed an innocent family out there, and now they'll be looking for revenge, and they'll be coming after my family for it. Crap, Rosaria says again. Yes, Aaron says. And she finished it up by saying, and if they come after my family, I'll be coming after all of you. Chapter 28. Tom Cornwall's heart is pounding harder than it ever has in his life. In those tight times doing stories overseas, with explosions, with the thud-thud-thud of automatic rifle fire, and seeing black-clad armed figures come toward him, he has always kept a steady calm, doing his job. Not today. Not here. His hand is on Denise's shoulder as he peers again through the open door. He squats down and holds her thin shoulders tight. Now, he whispers, listen and listen to me good, Denise. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. This is serious. Do you understand? She nods her head, biting her lower lip, her eyes red-rimmed. But Denise seems to be listening. We're going out now, all right? We're going out together. But if something happens, if the bad men come, you run, all right? Run hard, run fast, and get out of here. Find a grown-up, a woman, and tell her what happened. Tell her to call the police and take you someplace safe. Daddy, I'm so scared. The tears are trickling down her cheeks. Me too, he admits. But I'm counting on you, honey. You were brave putting the gum in the lock, but you have to be brave again. And if I tell you to run, run. He stands up, takes her hand, and they're out the door. Tom takes 2 steps, looks to the left and the right. Where now? Move, he thinks. Don't be frozen by indecision. Move. He takes his daughter's hand, starts walking quickly. They're both in bare feet, and if there's someplace warm, he needs to get them both outside. If this is somewhere in the tropics, being outside in bare feet will fit in, but not in a building's basement. More pallets, more construction equipment. There's a corridor to the right, and he takes Denise down the corridor and it ends in a jumble of piles of sheetrock and metal frames. Damn it! He backs out, and there are voices and he picks her up and pulls her behind a pallet of shoulder-high cardboard boxes wrapped in light green plastic. "Shh," Tom says. "Stay quiet." It seems like two men walk by, arguing in a foreign language, and Tom can't believe it. But he recognizes a couple of the words the men are using. Pashto, the language of people in Afghanistan and Pakistan. What the hell? The voices fade away. "Come on," he whispers, and he holds her hand. And when Denise shrieks, it hits him like a blow to the back of his head. Chapter 29. Good God, that shriek. Tom thinks it'll be a miracle if no one within a mile has noticed it. "Shh, what's wrong? What's wrong?" he says. And Denise goes, "Ow, ow, ow, I stepped on something." She lifts her right leg, and there's blood on the bottom of her foot. And he sees a discarded piece of scrap metal his girl has stepped on. "It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." And he has a flash of memory from 2 years back, in northern Syria after a mortar attack, a poor wounded Kurdish fighter saying the same thing. "It hurts, it hurts." And Tom had the brutal realization back then, "Well, better you than me, pal," as he ran to a trench for safety. There is no running here, no safety. This is his little girl. He can't run away, can't leave her. "Shh," he whispers. "Please be quiet. Let me see." He gently puts her down, examines her right foot, notes a widening splotch of blood. He presses his handkerchief against it, removes it, tries to wipe away more of the blood, as Denise moans and tightens her tear-filled eyes. "Daddy?" "Come on," he says. "We're still leaving. I'll carry you." He picks up Denise and she squeezes him tight, burrows her head into his shoulder, and he starts walking fast, knowing it's only up to him now. That if things go bad, he can't rely on Denise running to safety with that cut on her foot. He has to make it. He has to. Tom catches a smell of salt air, maneuvers past piles of long plastic pipe, sees light up ahead. Move, move, move. The light is coming from an open roll-up door, open to the outside. His bare feet slap on the concrete as he kicks up his speed. Denise is as light as a feather. He has no real plan, just the base, raw emotion of getting his girl out of here, into the daylight, and finding someplace safe, any place. "Yes," he whispers, and now they're outside. A parking lot. Dump trucks. 2 white vans with tools and construction equipment inside. He quickly thinks of checking to see if the vans have their keys inside, but both vans are occupied. One by a guy drinking a cup of coffee, the other by an older guy checking his cell phone. He keeps on moving, slowing down. Running attracts attention. Can't do that. Denise lifts her head. "Daddy?" And her voice is stronger. "Almost there, hon, almost there." He gets them out of the parking lot, and now they're in a set of little green parks, walkways, other parking lots, palm trees, spiky bushes, men and women and children walking around, almost all in beach gear. His heart is thumping so hard, he's sure that Denise can feel the vibration in her chest. Where now? The beachgoers are looking at them with open curiosity, and it's easy to see why, for they're not dressed for rest and relaxation, haven't bathed in a while, and the panic on both of their faces is probably as clear as a siren cutting through the night. "Almost there," he whispers. "Almost." But where the hell is there? There are 4 or 5-story resort-type buildings with brass numbers on the doorways. But if they are in some foreign land, can he waste the time to try to talk to whoever's on duty, to find a phone, to find someone in authority? Now they're on a smooth paved road, curving to the right, that leads to a metal gate and a high stone wall. But the gate is open iron, and there's a crowded street out there, with lots of pedestrians and traffic, and yes, that's where they are going. Get lost in the crowd, find out where the hell they are, find a phone, or a cell phone, or a goddamn telegraph station. Next to the large gate is a smaller opening allowing pedestrians in and out. And at the gate is a black SUV with dark windows, and the gate starts rattling to the right. Fine, he thinks. Fine. We walk past the SUV, get through the pedestrian gate, and we're out. We're free. Tom kisses the top of Denise's head. Just a few seconds, hon. Just a few seconds more. Daddy, my foot really hurts. I know, he says. And now the weight of his 10-year-old girl has suddenly materialized. And he realizes how damn bone-tired he is. But seeing the open street out there and the lines of people, make it, he thinks. We're going to make it. Just a few yards more. He can hear the people out there talking as they walk by, the rumble of the traffic, a few horns. Just a couple of yards more. He squeezes Denise's waist, hunches her up more so her legs are wrapped around his waist, and then the rear passenger door to the SUV suddenly opens up. He dodges to the left, and a man is blocking his way, smiling. Pelayo Abud is blocking his way, wearing a light blue linen suit, crisp white shirt, a wide smile on his face, holding a glass Coca-Cola bottle in his beefy hand, a straw jutting out. He lifts up the bottle in a salute. Are you sure I can't offer you both a drink? He asks. You two look very thirsty. Chapter 30. Trooper Clay Hancock from District 2, Troop C of the Tennessee Highway Patrol spots a black Jeep Wrangler with Virginia license plates pulled over on the side of southbound I-75 and slows down with his white Chevrolet Caprice. He switches on the overhead light bar and pulls in right behind the Wrangler, lifts up his Motorola radio handset, and calls in the traffic stop. He waits for just a second to see if anyone's in the area. Nope. The near grassy strip is clear, which means the driver hasn't let a passenger out for an unofficial rest stop. There also doesn't seem to be anyone lurking in a nearby grove of trees. The driver has both hands on the steering wheel and is looking back at him via the Jeep's rearview mirror. All right, he thinks. Let's see what's what. He picks up his round campaign hat, steps outside, and tugs on it. It looks routine. Maybe the driver needed a break, or to check the GPS, or heard something funny from the engine. But Hancock knows no traffic stop is ever routine. Last year he pulled over an RV with Kentucky plates that was weaving back and forth on this same stretch of highway, and the little old lady said she was just tired and needed a cup of coffee. Maybe she was tired, but a quick search revealed about 100 pounds of plastic-wrapped weed hidden in the RV's rear storage unit. He approaches the Wrangler and presses 4 fingers on the Jeep's rear, leaving his fingerprints behind. If something untoward were to happen in the next few minutes, at least his fellow troopers would have forensic proof that he had stopped this Jeep. Not being paranoid, he thought, just being careful. Careful highway patrolmen live to go home at the end of shift.
A Tennessee highway patrolman is pulling his cruiser right up behind my Jeep Wrangler. And thoughts and options are rattling through my mind like an avalanche of rocks and stones. Relax, I think. Just relax. Keep the hands on the steering wheel. Act calm and courteous. These guys are professionals and they have a sixth sense if anything appears odd or unusual. My goal now is to get a ticket for whatever Tennessee state law I may be violating and get going. But above all, don't let him search the Jeep. I'm not sure what the law here is concerning driving with 2 concealed firearms, but I'm sure it's not a laugh and a lollipop and being sent on one's way. I lower the window and put my hands back up on my steering wheel. The highway patrolman comes up and stands at a distance from the door, so I have to crane my neck to look at him. He's a male, early 30s, and his lean face is impassive. He has on dark green trousers and a light tan shirt with dark green pocket flaps. With his round campaign hat firmly on his head, he looks like he could be an Army drill instructor in his spare time. "Afternoon, ma'am," he says. "Are you all right? Is there a problem?" "No, sir, no problem," I say, giving him a sweet smile. "I've been driving for a while and I just needed a moment to stretch my legs. Sorry if I shouldn't have parked here." He peers in, sees my duffel bag in the rear, maps in the seat next to me. "Are you driving by yourself, ma'am?" "Yes, sir, I am." He takes a step back And I think, all right, that seems to be it. And then he leans back in. Could I see your license and registration, please?
Hancock sees the woman is in her mid-30s, dark hair, tanned skin, and she's smiling and being cooperative, but something just doesn't seem right to him. He can't put his finger on it, but something just seems off. He had been ready to send her on her way, but now he wants to dig a bit. License and registration? She repeats. Certainly. My registration is in my glove box. My license is in my purse. Very well, ma'am, he says, stepping back and putting his hand on his holstered .357 Glock Model 31 with 15 rounds. Take your time, which is a very polite way of saying no fast movements. Keep your hands visible. And if this Jeep had been filled with skinny, tattooed meth heads, that's exactly what he would have said. So why is he talking this way to this single woman? Because his gut tells him to do it. He keeps a close eye on her hands as she opens a large black leather carrying bag. And she takes out a small purse, snaps it open, and passes over her Virginia driver's license and an armed forces identification card. He puts them aside and watches very, very carefully as she opens the glove box, always being ready in case something comes out besides a slip of paper. And yes, out comes a little green plastic folder, and from that, she pulls out the Jeep's registration. Now it makes sense, as he examines the two IDs and the registration, all in the name of Amy Cornwall. There have been lots of vehicle stops where Hancock had to wait while the driver dug and dug through a pile of papers, napkins, and ketchup containers looking for his or her registration, like some impatient and deranged archaeologist. At least this gal has her act together. He holds up the paperwork and says, "Just give me a couple of minutes, ma'am, check things out, and then I'll get you on your way."
From my side view mirror, I watch him amble back into his cruiser. And right now, lots of options, plans, and arguments are bouncing around in my increasingly overwhelmed mind. The biggest problem facing me is if I'm listed in the National Crime Information Center system as an Army deserter. That only happens after I've been AWOL for 30 days or more, but with that damn Afghanistan investigation hanging over my head like a 100-pound sack of cement, that might have changed. I've also blown off a meeting with a CID investigator and pissed off my CO, Lieutenant Colonel Denton, so who knows if I'm in the system or not. Having angered the official Army police and my commanding officer might just have put me in the NCIC system last night. And if I am, that hunk of a highway patrolman is going to come back and arrest me after he runs my identification. I will not allow that to happen. Chapter 31. I keep on staring back at the man who unwittingly now has my future and that of my kidnapped family in his hands. All right, I keep thinking. Suppose I'm not in the NCIC system, but he's a suspicious sort, and he may want me to consent to a search of the Jeep. If he does that, and unless I tell him first, he's going to find my Ruger .357 revolver and my 9mm Sig Sauer pistol. That will certainly get his attention, and not in a good way. I keep my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't have to give him my armed forces identification, but I wanted to appeal to his patriotic nature. Sometimes it works, and I've heard stories of off-duty guys and gals using their uniforms and ID to get free upgrades at hotels and airline counters. Considering what we get paid and how we're treated, that's a perk I can't argue with. But it doesn't look like I'm getting any perks today. I keep staring at the rearview mirror. It looks like the bulky highway patrolman is talking into a cell phone. Looking for guidance from a supervisor? Did a bolo come up on me in the NCIC system already? A cold chunk of lead has just formed in my chest. I will not be detained today. I will not be arrested today. I will not be delayed. I keep my left hand on the steering wheel and slide my right hand into my open dispatch case, put my hand around the smooth metal of the Ruger revolver. A hateful decision, but one I've just made. I don't know this cop, but I do know he won't keep me from my mission.
Hancock is running Amy Cornwall's driver's license through the NCIC system via the cruiser's computer, and she comes up clean. No outstanding warrants or summonses. Fine. His personal cell phone rings, and he glances at the number, recognizes his home number. "Hey, hon," he answers. "What's up?" His wife, Lucille, whom everyone calls Lulu, says, "God, Clay, I'm sorry to bother you, but the pharmacy just called. The cough syrup for Kimmy's ready to be picked up. You think you can swing by when your shift's over?" "Sure, Lou, I can do that," he says, keeping an eye on the black Wrangler and the driver. Something is wrong. He keeps his eye on the Jeep and says, "How's her cough?" "Pretty rough," his wife says. "For a 6-year-old, I can't believe how loud she is. Maybe the 3 of us can get some sleep tonight if that syrup works." "That'd be great, Lou," he says. "Look, I'm in the middle of something, and—" I know, she says, laughing. "And tell you what, if our little patient gets to sleep early tonight, I'll give you a nice big reward later on." He smiles, feels something stir within him. "Thanks, babe. You're going to make the rest of my shift fly right by." His wife whispers, "Be safe. Come home, okay?" "Okay." He picks up the driver's license, registration, and Armed Forces ID from the seat, and just waits one more second. What's bothering him? The Wrangler is parked, the engine is off, the driver is sitting there with both hands up on the steering wheel. That's it. She's sitting there, hands up on the steering wheel, like she's guilty of something. Like she's done something wrong and she doesn't want to raise any suspicions. He thinks, opening the cruiser door. "Sorry, driver. You've just done the opposite." Hancock slowly walks to the Wrangler, one hand holding the paperwork, his other on the butt of his pistol, ready to pull it free in a second's notice.
Chapter 32. I look again at the highway patrolman coming at me via my Jeep's side view mirror, and his face is still flat, impassive, and I don't like it. He seems to be trying to look cool and collected, and it's having the opposite effect on me. My right hand is still curved around the Ruger revolver. I start to tear up. This cop doesn't know it, but whatever decision he's going to make in the next 60 seconds or so is going to determine whether he gets shot on the side of this empty Tennessee highway.
Hancock positions himself again safely behind the open window and passes in the paperwork to the driver, who seems very relieved to get it back. And then he lowers his head and says, "Everything looks fine, miss." "Thank you, sir." "You in the Army?" "I am." "What's your rank, if you don't mind me asking?" "Captain." "Wow, that's impressive," he says, looking again in the rear seat, seeing the stuffed duffel bag, and then back to the passenger seat, with open maps and atlases on top of the black leather bag, where her hand is resting, inside. All right, then. He pulls his pistol free, but does so quietly, and without moving much so the driver won't notice. "Mind telling me where you're going, ma'am?" A slight hesitation. "Chattanooga." "Really? I didn't know there was an Army base in Chattanooga." "There isn't," she says. "I'm taking a few days' leave, meeting up with an old girlfriend of mine from school. Going to spend a few days relaxing and pampering ourselves at a hotel." "Uh-huh," he says, the pistol calmly in his hand. The duffel bag. He imagines his wife, Lulu, spending a few days with a girlfriend. Would she just dump a bunch of clothes into some ratty duffel bag? Or pack up nice and neat? Enough. Hancock steps back, brings up his pistol, and says in a clear and loud voice, "Ma'am, show me your hands, and then exit the vehicle." No reply. "Ma'am?" Then the damnedest thing happens. From the driver's side view mirror, he can make out her face. And she's starting to cry. "For God's sake," she says, "don't do this." Chapter 33. Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez is sitting on a hard plastic chair in the main terminal at Nashville Airport when she makes the call. The terminal is wide and airy, looking like the set of a 50-year-old science fiction movie, promising a sweet and peaceful future with lots of white plastic and exposed concrete, Surprise of surprises, her call goes right through, and a brisk voice says, "Major Wenner speaking." "Major, this is Special Agent Vasquez calling. How are you, sir?" His voice goes down a notch. "All right, I suppose, Agent Vasquez?" "Outstanding, sir," she says. "I'm conducting a bit of a follow-up from yesterday, sir." "Yes?" She shifts her weight on the hard plastic. "Well, sir, I'm just checking on something I thought Colonel Denton said yesterday about Captain Cornwall. If you may recall, sir." "And what's that?" "Well, if I recall correctly," she says, while thinking, "Got you, you squirrely bastard. Just before I left yesterday afternoon, your colonel told me that you'd be giving me an update today on Captain Cornwall's health. Am I correct, sir?" The guy is good, for he quickly says, "Yes, you're absolutely correct, Special Agent. And I'm sorry I've not gotten back to you today. We had a visit from the SecDef to the base this morning, and I've just been buried." "Sir, do you consider yourself unburied now?" A cold pause. "I don't think I appreciate that question, Special Agent." "Sorry, sir, I meant no disrespect." As if, she thinks. "Right now I'm in the beginning stages of a very important investigation involving the death of a civilian in army custody in Afghanistan, under the command of Captain Cornwall. Is she still ill?" "I believe so, sir." The cold voice changes its tone. "Special Agent, she's not reported to work, and it appears she's not at home." "Do you know where she is, sir?" "No, I don't." Out in the terminal lobby, 2 soldiers in ACUs stride by, coming from one of the 4 concourses, carrying knapsacks and wearing tan boots. And Rosaria feels a stir, looking at the strong young men. Her brothers, her family. She doesn't know their names, but doesn't have to. They are still family. "Sir," she says, "right now with Captain Cornwall's absence, I don't have much to go on. Can you think of any officer at your base who might be able to give me insight into her and her service in Afghanistan?" "Well, I did serve with the captain for a while in the Stan." "Major, no disrespect, but I'm looking for someone of her rank or lower, sir." Another pause. "No names readily come to mind." Rosaria watches the 2 soldiers walk up to a group of civilians, who start applauding and cheering as they approach. The civilians are holding balloons and handmade signs with bright markings. She says, "Major, as previously noted, this investigation is in its preliminary stages here in the States, but I have no doubt how this case goes will get a lot of attention, both within the Army and without, as we proceed. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir?" "I think so," comes the cautious reply. "So far, the section of my report concerning the cooperation I'm receiving from senior officers is blank. How and when I fill out this section, and what I will say about you and Colonel Denton, well, that remains to be seen." The major doesn't reply. The 2 soldiers are being surrounded by their family members, their loved ones. Rosaria says, "Are you sure you can't come up with a name?" "Lieutenant Baker," he says. "Lieutenant Preston Baker. He was with her during her entire deployment in Afghanistan. If you give me your email address, I'll send you his contact information within the hour." She gives him her email address and says, "Thank you so much, Major, for your cooperation." He hangs up without another word. So what? She thinks. She's got another lead. Rosaria should feel good, should feel triumphant. But she doesn't. The sight of those 2 soldiers over there being welcomed back by their families is gnawing at her. Ever since she enlisted in the Army, she's always considered the Army her family, the ones who would back her up, who would befriend her, and who would even love her. Now those thoughts are like old dust in her mouth. Over there in that happy little crowd, that is a true family. Her Army? Her phone chimes and she brings up the device. Her boss, Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy, is calling her. She brings the phone up and checks the departure board. Her flight leaves in under an hour. Time to get through the checkpoints and to her gate. "Special Agent Vasquez," she says. "What's up, sir?" "Where are you?" "At the Nashville airport." "What the hell are you doing in Nashville?" "Looking for Graceland." "That's in Memphis," he says. "I was misinformed, boss," she says. "What do you think I'm doing? I'm working on the Amy Cornwall case." "What's your current plan?" "Heading back to Reagan International, on the way to return to Fort Belvoir." "You've got a lead?" I do, boss. At Fort Belvoir? Yes. Too bad, he says. You're not going back there.
Chapter 34. I'm wired and ready for whatever comes my way, but I'm also trying not to get sick to my stomach. The polite and impressive-looking state trooper has come back to my parked Wrangler, has passed over my paperwork, engaged in a bit of idle chit-chat, and I'm hoping that he's about to send me along. Each minute delayed here means another mile lost in my travel to Texas. Then the trooper starts asking me questions. Mind telling me where you're going, ma'am? Excellent question. And recalling a highway sign I had seen 10 minutes back, I say, Chattanooga. Really? I didn't know there was an army base in Chattanooga. There isn't, I say, trying to sound calm and relaxed. I'm taking a few days' leave, meeting up with an old girlfriend of mine from school. Going to spend a few days relaxing and pampering ourselves at a hotel. Uh-huh, he says. And I think, great, just say so long and we'll both be on our way. Then it goes straight to hell. The trooper steps back, brings up his service pistol from his holster and says, Ma'am, show me your hands, and then exit the vehicle. Ah, shit, I think. Ma'am. No, I think, my eyes tearing up again. For God's sake, I say, don't do this. What? The trooper asks. Hands up, get out of your vehicle, now. My hand is near the butt of the .357 Ruger. If I bring it up and try to shoot him through the open Jeep window, that'll give him plenty of time to cut me down before I can even pull the trigger, which leaves the side of the Jeep. It's a thin-skinned vehicle, and if I bring the Ruger back around my lap and shoot to the side and the rear, then the rounds will go through the thin metal and hit him. Hit the police officer, a representative of the state of Tennessee, a defender of law and order, and I'm about to put a bullet in him. My stomach is roiling. My mouth is dry. I have no choice. I think one more time. I reach out and grab what I need.
Trooper Clay Hancock takes one more step back, because this situation is going to the shits real quick now. And then, thankfully and to his surprise, the driver does just what he asked, sticking out both hands through the open window. One hand is holding her driver's license and registration. All right, he thinks. Progress. Driver, lower your left hand. Open your door from the outside. Now. The woman's left hand moves down, fumbles some with the outside door handle, and she pulls it open. Now, slowly step out and face toward the front of your vehicle. The door swings open and she steps out, and then steps back, both arms up in the air. And he's confident now that he's onto something, because she's lifted her arms without being ordered to do so, which means she's hiding something. Driver, slowly step. She starts coming back, and then her driver's license and registration drop from her right hand, and she says, "Oh, let me get that." The driver bends down to pick up the 2 slips of identification, and then it happens in so few seconds. The woman is on her hands, and then she lifts up both legs and propels herself back with her arms, and her legs open up in a V shape, and Hancock tries to step back, lifts up his pistol, but the woman is too damn fast. Her strong legs wrap around his own lower legs. She twists her legs and he falls, hitting his head on the pavement, and his pistol is out of his hand, and he's trying to fight back, but the woman tugs at his utility belt, and he yelps as he's struck in the eyes with his own pepper spray.
Chapter 35. In Afghanistan, I learned how to take down a gunman or a disguised cop at a government checkpoint to ensure my not getting kidnapped by the Taliban, and I'm stunned that it actually works. The trooper falls heavy on his head and side. I grab his pistol and toss it into the grass, and I find his pepper spray canister and give him a good jolt in his eyes. He cries out, and I move as quickly as I can because all I need now is a Tennessee driver who's an NRA member slowing down and seeing me handcuffing this trooper. The highway is clear. I handcuff him, haul him up. And he's talking to me, and I'm ignoring his words and pleas, and I manage to shove him into the rear seat of his cruiser. I slam the door and go to the driver's seat. Luckily, the engine is still running and the trooper is still trying to talk to me. I'm ignoring him. Where to? There. That grove of trees. I glance up at the side view mirror. White van coming right down at us. I duck down. Wait. Wait. I say, just be quiet back there, all right? I'm not going to hurt you. I just need time. I hear the van roar by, feel the cruiser shake a bit from its passing. And when I think enough seconds have passed, I sit up, check the mirror one more time. Clear. I shift the cruiser into drive, swing the steering wheel, and we go down the uneven grassy ground until I find a place to pull in among the trees. The right side of the cruiser gets scraped by a pine trunk, and I say, "Sorry about that." I lower the windows some, switch off the engine. I take the keys. I go around and open the rear door, and the guy tries to kick me. I dodge it easily and pat his lower shins. "Trooper, I'm sorry. You have no idea how sorry I am. I'll call the state police in a while, let them know where they can find you." His eyes are swollen, red and weepy. You're going to jail for this, bitch. I can guarantee it. I will hurt you, no matter how long it takes." I recall that rear police doors can't be opened from the inside. With him being handcuffed, it's going to take a lot of time and effort for him to break free. "You're going to hurt me?" I ask. "Take a number." I slam the rear door shut and start running back up to the highway.
Chapter 36. Hancock swears and tries to hammer at the door with his booted feet. No joy. Damn it all to hell. He knew something odd was going on with this army woman. And now here he is, humiliated, eyes hurting like hell, handcuffed in the rear of his own cruiser. He has no doubt that once he gets free, his brothers and sisters in law enforcement will do their best to track down this crazy bitch. But still. Besides coming home safe, cops also have another steadfast rule. Don't screw up in public. Being disarmed, pepper sprayed with his own canister, and then cuffed and tossed into the rear of your cruiser like some damn sack of potatoes? After a dignified amount of time, his fellow troopers in his section are going to tease him without mercy in the years to come, unless he busts a couple of heads along the way and threatens his job. He might even have to put in for a transfer, or go find another law enforcement job somewhere, try to start new, and live this down. A ringing noise interrupts his fast-moving thoughts, and he realizes it's his cell phone, and he can't get to it. And crap, maybe it's Lou calling to check in on him, to remind him to pick up that prescription. Damn! Screwing up on the job and in his personal life. What a day this has turned out to be. He shimmies forward, and then lifts both feet and slams them against the rear door window. The glass trembles, and his feet bounce right back. What did that army captain say? Something about needing time? He tries again with his feet. The window stays in place. Hancock thinks that the Cornwall woman could be looking for enough time to save the planet, and he rightly doesn't give a crap. When he gets free, there's going to be a law enforcement pursuit that will make that army captain regret ever going after Clay Hancock, by God. He tries again with his feet.
I'm going up near my Wrangler, and a red Ford pickup truck is slowing down like it wants to check me out or maybe offer some help. And I make an exaggerated motion at the front of my slacks to look like I am zipping things up after taking a bathroom break. The truck speeds up. There's a honk and some shouts from the two guys inside, and instead of doing what I want to do, give them a one-finger salute, I give them a big smile and wave and get back into my Jeep, after having picked up my license and registration from the ground. Inside the Jeep, I should gently place the .357 Ruger back into my leather carrying case, get out into traffic and resume my mission to Three Rivers, Texas, and fast. I should. Instead, I just bow my head against the steering wheel, shudder, and start sobbing. I take a deep breath. It's a hell of a thing, coming that close to shooting an innocent state trooper. A hell of a thing. Then I start up my Jeep, and get the hell out of there.
Chapter 37. Tom Cornwall is exhausted and discouraged, sitting on the end of the bunk bed, back in his cubicle prison. His right arm is stretched out, gently holding Denise's hand. She's wide-eyed but keeping calm, sitting up against a pile of pillows. A dark-skinned woman wearing a black scarf around her head is smiling and whispering at Denise as she works on her cut foot. "There's a good girl. Be brave now. Just a bit more." Denise's right leg and foot are extended into the woman's skirted lap, and there's an open leather case on the other bed. The woman doctor has gently washed and wiped Denise's foot, and now she tapes on a small bandage. "There you go, princess," she says in a soft, accented voice. "The wound isn't that bad. It just looked bad. Lots of blood. Try to stay off it as much as you can during the next few days, all right?" Denise nods. "Does it feel better now?" "Uh-huh. Good girl." The woman gathers up her medical gear and supplies, zips the case shut, and then stands up. She says a phrase in Pashto that Tom recognizes. "Goodbye, little girl," and turns to leave. Tom catches her eye. He hopes there's sympathy, or worry, or friendship in that doctor's face. But no, there's just contempt. That's all. Tom knows why. It's the contempt of a woman seeing a man who can't take care of his little girl. The doctor leaves, and Pelayo Aboud steps in, with two other men, one older, one younger, the two men who had earlier dropped off their breakfast. Tom squeezes Denise's hand. Pelayo steps forward with Tonton and the young Afghan man named Hamid. That's right. The American writer is tired. His face is sagging, and Pelayo knows he's been broken. To be within a few meters of freedom and escape, carrying his little girl in his arms, his writer's mind already composing the successful end of their escape. And Pelayo stepped in, destroying the story, destroying his hopes. Tom Cornwall says, "Yes." Pelayo gently sits down on the opposite bunk, holding a crisp small brown paper bag in his hand. He says, "I'm sorry. Perhaps I didn't make myself clear the last time we spoke. I'm in the middle of a delicate negotiation involving very high stakes, and your wife is a vital part of that dealing, which includes you and your daughter. You did understand that, did you not?" A heavy breath. "I did. I also told you that having you here is a guarantee of this transaction successfully taking place. I also told you that if my cousin Miguel were here, the situation wouldn't be so civilized, even though he pretends to be a religious man. Look, I did what any dad would do. I was scared." Pelayo opens the top of the paper bag. "I also offered you some additional refreshments. One of the items you requested was chewing gum. It was a moistened piece of chewing gum placed in that door behind me that allowed you and your lovely little girl to escape, correct?" Tom just nods. "So my gracious response to your request was a betrayal then, wasn't it? A piece of gum that I thought would go to you and your daughter to perhaps provide a means of relaxation and calm was used to help your escape." Tom's voice is quiet and dull. "I understand what you say, but what kind of father would just sit here without trying to escape?" Pelayo reaches into the paper bag, takes something out. "The kind of father who would be smart would sit tight, wouldn't do anything to put himself or his daughter into jeopardy. That kind of father. And Mr. Cornwall, in the meanwhile, you've also embarrassed me in front of my staff. I can't let that stand now, can I?" Tom stares hard at the small metal object in Pelayo's right hand. He whispers, "No." Pelayo says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. No is not an option today." Chapter 38. At the Nashville airport, Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez says, "Boss, what do you mean I'm not going back to Fort Belvoir?" "I need a fire to be put out," Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy says. "A fire that you caused earlier today. Did you tell me you were going to Fort Campbell?" "No, I didn't," she says. Why? I was conducting my investigation, sir. You know how it is. You've never asked me before to be briefed on what I do, hour by hour, even day by day. Well, now I've changed my mind. Sir? Before her, the two happy soldiers are being escorted out of the terminal by members of their family. Their real family, not a fake one. He says, "Did you check in with anyone at the 502nd MP Battalion?" "I did not," she says. "Even though they're the CID group responsible for Fort Campbell and its personnel?" She says, "I wasn't investigating their personnel. I was investigating Captain Cornwall and her temporary assignment there." "Well, that's still a problem," he says. "Lieutenant Colonel McCrae, he runs the 502nd, and he's one pissed-off CO. Military courtesy and all that. He's raising a fuss, and he's getting some attention. Attention we don't need, and I don't need. So you need to get back to Fort Campbell and make nice with him. Apologize. Now." Rosaria says, "But that's more than an hour's drive away. I'll miss my flight." "Then you should get started and get that job done." "But don't you want to know what I found out so far?" "Special Agent, is your investigation complete? Do you know where Captain Amy Cornwall is at this moment?" "No, I don't." "Then I don't have to know a thing." "Boss." That old feeling of being kept in the dark, of being helpless and confused. "Rosaria, pack your bags. You're going back to child services. Rosaria, stay home tonight. We're taking our children out for our wedding anniversary. Rosaria, sorry, that's the way it is. You're going to another family, and we're sorry you'll miss your friends at school." "Yes? Make it snappy." "What's going on? Who's gotten to you?" "Special Agent, get a hold of Colonel McCrae and make nice." He disconnects the call. Rosaria sits there feeling lightheaded, wondering what is going on with this Cornwall investigation. There's a bing coming from her phone telling her she's just received an email. It's from Major Wenner at Fort Belvoir, giving her the contact information for Lieutenant Preston Baker, the officer who was with Captain Amy Cornwall during her last tour of Afghanistan. She saves the information, toggles through her phone, fingers angrily sweeping across the screen and typing in names until she finds what she's looking for. The phone number for Lieutenant Colonel Angus McCrae, commanding officer for the 502nd MP Battalion at Fort Campbell. She waits, hesitates, then punches in the numbers. Gets the secretary for Lieutenant Colonel McCrae, and then gets McCrae's executive officer, Major Brian Coyne. "Major Coyne, this is Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez of the 701st Military Group at Marine Corps Base Quantico." "Yes?" "Is Lieutenant Colonel McCrae available?" "For what reason?" She thinks, "To have me bow and scrape before him and make him feel all right." "I believe the Colonel knows why," Rosaria says. "Well, he's in a conference right now, and I can't see him being available at all today. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. would be the soonest I could squeeze you in. If you could tell me what this is all about." "At the moment, I'm afraid I can't," Rosaria says. "But may I leave a message with you, sir?" A slight grunt. "All right, go ahead." "Tell him I'm sorry." "What?" Rosaria says, "Tell him I'm sorry. No, tell him this. I'm really, really sorry." "Vasquez, is this some sort of joke?" "No, sir, it isn't. Will you deliver the message?" "I will, but I don't—" "Thank you, Major. You have a good day now." Rosaria disconnects the call, checks the time. If she hustles, she can make her flight back to Reagan International, and within a few hours, find out what Lieutenant Preston Baker knows about the missing Captain Amy Cornwall. Rosaria gets up, starts briskly walking to the TSA checkpoint, glances over at the other side of the terminal, sees that the two soldiers and their happy families are gone. Chapter 39. The little metal object in his right hand is light, but so devilishly simple and effective. Pelayo says, "Before, you thought you had a choice, staying here or trying to leave. You chose wrong. Now you have a second choice before you." Tom says, "Please." Pelayo gestures to Hamid. "This young man is from a battered and poor province in Afghanistan. I know you're aware of Afghanistan and its history of clans, tribes, and warfare. Hamid is orphaned. His family and village have been nearly destroyed. He's here working for me and barely speaks English. Correct, Hamid?" The young Pashto male, hearing his voice, smiles nervously and nods his head. Pelayo says, "Now, what would you think would happen if I were to leave him alone in this room with your daughter, and before I closed the door, I told him your family had his family incinerated last year?" Tom feels like the concrete cube has closed about him, squeezing his shoulders and torso. No escape. He tries not to stare at the small and familiar metal object in the man's right hand. "What do you mean, my family?" he asks. Pelayo gives a slight shrug. "You and your army wife. Don't you think you have blood on your clean and soft hands? Your wife, she's in the army. But I don't have to say any more. But you, Tom Cornwall, you have killed with your words, your stories." "Impossible," Tom whispers, knowing with a hard kernel inside of him that this tough yet soft-spoken man before him is even more dangerous than he can imagine. "Oh no, quite possible," his captor says. "You think you can rest comfortably in what's known as the Western world, write your stories, your opinion pieces, using unnamed sources or receiving leaks, not caring who or what might be feeding you information that once is in print under your name can be used as a weapon and used to threaten, bribe, or kill others in far distant lands." Tom keeps on staring at the metal object. "Please don't hurt Denise, please. She's only 10. Pelayo's voice gets sharp. "And you think your wife's actions and your crafted words haven't killed 10-year-old girls over the years? Really? Please, enough then. I will leave you with this choice here and now. We depart this room and leave Hamid with your daughter after I tell him what your family has done to his family. I tell him not to cause permanent damage, but we return 30 minutes later. Or..." Pelayo holds up the small metal contraption. Tom sees it and remembers a dinner party last year. The husband of a prominent DC journalist was in attendance and insisted on preparing his own homemade desserts for all the guests. "Not Hamid," Tom says. "A good father, then. Are you left-handed or right?" "Right." "Then extend your left hand and roll up your sleeve." Denise sees what's going on and says, "Daddy? Daddy?" Tom tries to keep his voice even for his daughter's sake. "Can you take her out for a moment? I don't want her to see this." Pelayo goes, "Tsk, tsk. That is not possible, my friend. Even at her age, she must suffer the actions of her family." Tom's mouth is dry, and his legs are shaking. The thick man named Tonton comes around and grabs his left arm by the elbow and wrist, holding it stretched out and still. Tom tries to be brave. "That's not necessary." Pelayo says, "Trust me, I know from experience. It is necessary." Tom yells out, "Denise, don't look!" With that, Pelayo switches on the small creme brulee torch and gently runs the 2,700-degree flame up the length of Tom's exposed arm. The sizzling noise and smell of burnt hair and skin makes him yell until his throat is hoarse.
Chapter 40. I don't slow down until I cross the Georgia border into eastern Alabama. And then I get a good case of the shakes once again when I'm on U.S. Highway 59 heading southwest. I'm still not sure why that Tennessee state trooper was interested in me. Because I really doubt that my boss, Lieutenant Colonel Denton, would have me listed as AWOL after less than 24 hours, and then put my name and vehicle ID into the NCIC. Unless he got pressure from someone to do so. Who? The people behind the kidnapping of Tom and Denise? Why? They would want me to get to Three Rivers. Why throw up a roadblock by listing me in the NCIC? I squeeze my hands on the Wrangler's steering wheel. Look at the evidence, I think. Look at the data points. The trooper didn't pull me over in traffic. No, he made a routine traffic stop when he saw a Jeep with Virginia license plates pulled over to the side. Routine, then. All right. If I wasn't in the NCIC, then what triggered him? Was it something I said? Something that he spotted that got his suspicious cop mind working? I understand cops and their gut feelings. Once you've performed hundreds of traffic stops, your subconscious and muscle memory work together to warn you when something doesn't feel right. I take a deep breath, check the time. I need something to eat. I'm not hungry, but I need fuel to keep me going all the way to Texas. I spot a sign for a truck stop called Love's up ahead, off exit 174. This interstate is really a narrow 2-lane blacktop, with woods and flat farmland extending on each side, and a wide and grassy tree-covered median separating me from the northbound lanes. Back home in Virginia, serious commuters would laugh at calling this an interstate. I come to the exit, make a right, and then turn left at the bottom, going 100 or so yards on Steel Station Road. This Love's travel stop is part of a large national chain, and it almost gives me a bit of comfort as I drive into the fuel pump area, step out, and start gassing up my Wrangler. With the pump running, I quickly walk to a Subway to the left of the truck stop, which is a wide 1-story building with a brick facade. It looks cute and homey. A few minutes later, I emerge with a steak and cheese sub, a bag of Lay's chips, and a Diet Coke. And after putting the nozzle back in the pump, I drive to the side of the parking lot, step out, and decide to have a quick little picnic on the hood of my Wrangler. I take out my maps and road atlases, start gauging distances and times, run some rough figures, check my watch. I lost some additional time due to road work, but according to my figures, it will take me about 14 hours to get to Three Rivers, Texas. I have plenty of time to stop for the night and arrive on time and fully rested. The steak and cheese sandwich is probably tasty as hell, but I can't really taste it. I just chew, swallow, chew, swallow. It's an overcast day with low clouds. An Alabama State Police cruiser slowly glides into the parking lot, parks in front of the brick building. I give the cruiser a quick glance, go back to my meal. A female trooper emerges, goes into the store. I finish up my sandwich, devour the chips, and take another good long acid swallow of the Diet Coke. Once I get to Three Rivers, I can scope out the address and then, come up with a perfect plan to seize somebody I don't know and toss him into my Jeep to exchange later for my loved ones. And where will the exchange take place? And how can I guarantee the safety of Tom and Denise? Later, I think. Later, focus on the job in front of you. Drive to Texas with no delays, no problems. The trooper goes back to the cruiser and I spot something I hadn't noticed before. The Love's travel stop has a logo consisting of 3 overlapping hearts, colored red, peach, and yellow. 3 symbols of love. Tom, Denise, and me. I try to take another swallow of the Diet Coke, and I just can't. I burst into tears and sob, and bring up a paper napkin, just as the Alabama State Police cruiser makes a wide turn and stops beside me. The window rolls down. A young trooper with her light blonde hair pulled tight in a bun at the back of her head calls out, "Everything all right, ma'am?" I know better than to bullshit her, because my last bullshit attempt with a member of law enforcement didn't go well. I wipe at my eyes and say, "My husband and my daughter. I'm worried about them, that's all." "They okay?" I shake my head. "No, they're not. They were in an accident yesterday, and I'm just driving as fast as I can to see them." She purses her lips, gives a slight shake of her head. "Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. Are you all right to drive? Is there anything I can do for you?" I blow my nose. "Ma'am, you've been helpful, honest. I just need to get going, that's all. I appreciate you checking in on me. That's very thoughtful of you." She says, "Well, I know you're probably in a hurry, so travel safe. I'll say a prayer for you and your family. Nothing more important than family, am I right? You're 100% right, I say, wiping my fingers clean. And she gives me a wave, drives off, and it just hits me. Denise and Tom. That evil voice inside of me once more. You know what always happens to most kidnap victims. They may already be dead. Shut up, I whisper. And I clean the trash off my Wrangler's hood and get back to my mission.
Chapter 41. Tom Cornwall's catalog and memory of pain is pretty thin, ranging from a broken collarbone while playing high school football to having a jerk of a medical intern putting in 2 stitches without benefit of anesthesia to fix a cut finger to a piece of shrapnel that nicked him in the ribs in Syria 2 years back. So he sees with horror the steady, hot flame of the handheld torch that Pelayo Aboud is confidently holding in his right hand, and he thinks, it'll be over soon, knowing the pain that is coming his way will be the worst he's ever felt in his life. And with the terror coursing through him as the strong man holds his wrist steady, another voice inside of him says, be strong for Denise, be strong for Denise. Don't traumatize her anymore. Be strong for Denise. Then Pelayo lowers his clenched hand with the torch down and a lick of flame from the surface of the sun reaches out and laps his arm. He screams in absolute and bone-crushing pain. He's on the floor, sobbing, crying, holding his left arm, shaking all over, his arm shaking the worst, like an exposed tree limb being hit by a strong breeze. He hears another scream, and it's his daughter. And in a sluggish way, he thinks, little girl, what are you screaming about? I'm the one who's just been burnt. There's an acrid smell in the room of burnt hair and flesh, and he grits his teeth, howling, still holding his wrist up, and then rolls over and vomits up his last meal, whatever the hell that was. Through a fog, he hears voices, and he's being moved around and checked and probed, and his little girl is still screaming, and in the thickness of it all, he wants to shout out, go away! All of you, go away! He's picked up and dropped on the other bed. His vision is gray, and his mouth tastes like old nickels, and his arm, oh my God, his arm! And a man grabs his hair and tugs him back, and Pelayo says slowly and carefully, you've learned the lesson, my friend. Don't try to escape again. Don't try to fight me. Don't try to resist. Don't make me repeat this lesson, for if I do, your little girl will be the one receiving it. Voices. Then he hears the distant click of a door being opened, and then the sound of metal hitting metal as the door is slammed shut. He grits his teeth again as the pain continues to throb along his wrist and forearm and right to the base of his brain, one big throb at a time, like a slow wave of hot lava, moving like it's controlled by the tides. Daddy, Daddy, Denise says, sobbing. And now the guilt collapses over him, and he takes a deep breath, and another. And he rolls over, trying to hide his wrist from his little girl, and in a shaky voice says, you just stay there, all right? Don't come over here, just stay there. She sobs again. Daddy, what can I do? What can I do? He closes his eyes. His girl is still one brave cookie, bless her. The pain grows and grows along his forearm, and he lets out a low, heavy moan. Tom grits his teeth. Stay brave, hon. Stay brave. Do that for me and your mother, all right? She sobs for another moment and says, Daddy? Yes, hon. God, the pain, the pain. I want Mommy to kill him. He almost smiles at the determined voice of his young sweetie. Me too, hon. Me too. Chapter 42. Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez steps out of her car as she sees the young Army officer, Lieutenant Preston Baker, walk away from his rusted red Nissan Sentra to the front door of the apartment complex he lives in, nearly an hour away from Fort Belvoir. Scanning the sad-looking two-story structure that has its siblings scattered around beyond distant parking lots, she sees the entire story of the place. The house was slapped up in a hurry when Fort Belvoir expanded years ago, meeting minimum building codes and using cheap lumber and materials, and the roof is now peeling shingles, the clapboards are warped and shedding paint, and the front lawns, which should have been maintained over the years by the property owners, are merely trampled down dirt decorated with swing sets, barbecue stations, and broken toys. It's a familiar place, bringing back memories of when she briefly resided in such buildings as a young ward of the state of Maryland. She briskly walks forward, wanting to catch up with Lieutenant Baker before he passes through the lobby area. He's slim and freckle-faced, has short red hair, and is wearing the standard ACUs. She knows why he's here, so far from base. Better to be on your own off-property than to be known around your station as a base rat, one who refuses to leave the base boundaries. He notices her, and Rosaria flashes her badge. "Lieutenant Baker? Special Agent Vasquez, CID. I need a few minutes of your time." He just nods, and his shoulders sag a bit, like he had always anticipated this happening, a CID agent wanting to talk to him. "Sure," he says. "Right this way." The inside of his small apartment surprises her, for it's neat and tidy. The furniture is old and dented, no doubt salvaged from Goodwill or the Salvation Army, but the old carpet looks like it's been freshly vacuumed, and there's a small TV and homemade bookshelves, lengths of wood and concrete blocks jammed full of paperback books. Rosaria spent enough time on previous interviews with mail service personnel, wading through ankle-deep piles of trash, porn magazines, empty pizza boxes, crushed takeout containers, that this is a nice change of pace. She sits across from him, and he answers her initial questions with ease and no sign of the earlier concern. Born in Washington, local schools, community college. One day on a 9/11 anniversary, he spent hours glued to the television, seeing the old footage of the collapsing towers, the burning Pentagon, and the smoking hole in the ground in Pennsylvania. So he enlisted and eventually entered the military's famed language school in Monterey, learned Pashto, and after additional intelligence training, was sent off to Afghanistan. "I was assigned to be with Captain Cornwall," he says, his pale, freckled hands holding his army cover between his knees. "We were at FOB Healy in Kunduz province. The place was named after a Navy SEAL hero who died a number of years back. You ever been at a forward operating base, ma'am?" "No, I haven't," she says. "What's it like?" "Like you're on the surface of the moon. Desolate for clicks and clicks in every direction. Rock and sand and scrub brush. Rough mountains where the Taliban would set up mortar positions and drop rounds on us every now and then. A handful of villages off in each direction. Week to week, you never knew which village supported the government or the Taliban. It was like nothing I've ever seen. Nothing. Reinforcements and supplies came in by chopper. We were entirely cut off." Even in this safe living room in Virginia, Rosaria could sense the fear and memories coming forth from the young lieutenant. "What was your MOS?" 09 Lima, ma'am," he says. "Translator for whatever prisoners came our way, either captured by our patrols or the government forces. I was with Captain Cornwall when she was doing her interrogations." "Interesting work?" He shakes his head. "Most times it was goat herders or poppy farmers who said they weren't Taliban, that they were just carrying AK-47s for personal protection, stuff like that. Most of the time we just took their photos, fingerprints, DNA swabs, and either sent them on their way or gave them back to the government forces." Rosaria looks down at the thin file that contains the notes and paperwork for the Cornwall investigation. "But there was one prisoner that stood out, am I right?" He quickly nods. "That's right, ma'am. This guy, his name was Muhammad something or another. He was different." "Different how?" "He was older, that's what. Maybe in his 40s, 50s. Pretty well dressed, in good health. I mean, some of these villages, you see a guy that looks like a grandpa who's been smoking cigars and eating raw sugar all his life, You find out he's only 30. It's a hard place. But this guy looked okay, and he spoke English. Rosaria pauses. That wasn't in the initial investigative report. Really? How well did he speak it? Baker smiles. Crap. Better than me. Almost an English accent. Like he went to some fancy school in Britain or someplace like that. Why was he picked up? Some tribal leader from one of the villages. He narked him. Said this Mohammed didn't belong. Was from far away. Was from the Taliban. But Mohammed said that wasn't true. He said he was a simple farmer. Was just passing through to visit relatives in some other village. Did Cornwell believe him? No, Baker says. Why? Because of his feet, Rosaria says. His feet? Another slight smile. Yeah, his feet. He claimed that he was a simple poor farmer, did a lot of walking and riding on horses or mules, but Captain Cornwell, she made him take his boots off. And his feet was nice and soft, not covered with calluses and thick skin like you'd expect. What happened next? The old guy, he kept on smiling, but he shut up. And he was put in one of the cages, and he came out the next day for another go-around and kept his mouth shut. And then another day. And Captain Cornwell, she was getting a lot of calls from up the chain, demanding answers, leads. Like I said, this guy didn't fit in. Farmer? His hands were almost as smooth as his feet. The captain's superiors, they thought he was a real catch. She was under a lot of pressure to break him. Those last two words, break him, catch her attention. Did she do that then? Break him? Well, Lieutenant, need I remind you of your responsibility here? To answer my questions fully and faithfully? Baker just nods at that, swallowing hard. It's like this. She got really pissed and said she was going to his cage to talk to him one-on-one to get what she needed. And then a while later, the call came out. Medics were brought in. The guy, they hauled him out in a wire basket. And I caught a look. His face was bruised. There was blood coming out of his mouth. And his eyes were wide open, staring up. Rosaria waits. And then Baker says one more sentence. Ma'am, Baker says, Captain Cornwell, she killed that prisoner.
This is the end of CD3. The book continues on CD4.